think that should take us live.
Oh, hi!
Yes. Welcome back
Oh
to
my
the
God.
Council of Candor, episode 36. Today we are covering the film Dinosaur, the one that was originally made by Disney in the year 2000. This is part of Dino-cember. Zim has sworn up and down he'll be on next week, by the way, so make sure you bully him in the comments and on his own live streams if he doesn't show again.
Yep.
And
I say we just kill it. I think that's
Yeah.
a simpler solution.
It's true. But yeah, so this film has a little bit of an interesting story here. I was telling the gang that we're going to do dinosaur stuff for December, and Pops here said we need to talk about this movie, and I asked him why, and he's like, "Well, because the main character is Moses," and I'm like, "All right, I got to hear this."
Well, okay.
And I'm like, "That's a good selling point. So let's talk about this." So yeah, that's why we're here. And you know what, Pops, since you're the one who recommended it, and everybody knows who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about the film? If you want, I can pull up the Wikipedia plot summary and read it. And if
we'll go over the film, we'll go over the quick plot synopsis a little bit after. I want to give a little bit of context to like the approach that I'm going to be giving to my, this isn't like an EFAP critique or something. This is more of an analysis, right? And so initially, first, shout out to the chat again, as always, and shout out to the fellas who made it tonight.
Sweaty Cheesy and thank you, boys.
And Zim, of course, he'll be here eventually tomorrow or whatever. But yeah, so I would say this story struck me because it's one of those stories. It's one of those movies where, funny enough, knowing this audience, it may actually be older than some of you guys. But if you're around my age, it's one of those movies where like you see a still frame or the poster from it posted somewhere on like Twitter or something, and you're like, oh my god, like it was one of those like weirdly kind of core childhood memories and stuff. And when you brought up dinosaurs, I remember thinking like, all right, well, what's a dinosaur movie that I remember seeing a lot? It was this one, and I went and watched it again, just for the hell of it. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is it struck me as very much like an Exodus / Journey to the Promised Land story now, with the perspective I have as an adult instead of a kid, of course. And it's funny because I didn't realize it at first. As a kid, you watch it because there's dinosaurs in the movie, but there actually is a lot of like decent lessons to be learned. And I think the way that the story is set up too, it's a short movie, but the pacing is like for the most part very good. Like it's like there's no fat on that sandwich. You know what I mean? Like everything kind of like is relevant, and every scene pretty much just happens and is just as important as the one before, and has as much of an impact on the scene afterwards. So I think it was really well made, especially with the special effects for its time as well. I think it was
real.
I think it was set up that it was like they would film real landscapes and then have like I don't know if it's CGI or animated, what you'd call it, with CGI. The dinosaurs. Yeah.
This is a couple things. I have so many fun facts about this. This film, like Pops was saying, this is actually the first official CGI film Disney ever made.
No way. Really?
Oh, really? No. Yeah.
God damn, and they knocked it out of the park too. They did not fucking pull any punches. This movie is gorgeous. Gorgeous movie.
Yeah. Pops, I was just the point on that. You can definitely tell they use some landscape, like actual, like probably
early with the whole design. They wanted to save money, and they said, "Hey, we could make the film cheaper if we send film crews on location." In fact, 2 people died filming this film because a camera rig snapped and killed them because they were filming on location. This is actually, I did not know that. Is one of the things that killed live action in Hollywood because of that, because they realized just how much safer CGI would be. This is one of the reasons that you see Hollywood's got so many restrictions on it. So,
gorgeous movie. It came out in 2000.
Yeah, 2000. This movie's 24 years old. It is in fact older than I believe 38% of my audience. But I do.
It's older than
I'm one of those.
I do want to say 2 things for chat. Kesabu, F29, the Egg Travel song is fantastic, and it's used in almost every Disney trailer for the next 5 years. They will. That's a generic song they play because it was so popular. And also
the soundtrack of this movie fucks.
The soundtrack's really good. Yes, it does. And I agree with
Excellent.
Minecraft's World. I have no idea what Shea Phillips was smoking. This was one of the worst. I think the film's biggest crime is just boring at like worst. That's not like saying, oh, we need to throw this thing out. There's a lot of garbage Disney put out here.
I'll tell you what, the reason that I personally would have this movie probably between like high 7.5 to maybe 8 out of 10, I would say. It would be higher if it didn't feel like certain characters like kind of just fell off the face of the earth for like a decent amount of sequences in a row. Like I get like the narrative
it drags a little bit, I'd say, at the end. It starts out really strong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just want to point out, Drake Boy. First of all, that's not admirable. What's admirable is that they didn't use a T-Rex or a Velociraptor, and by Velociraptor I mean a reskinned Utah Raptor. But you're correct. Like, yeah, it is kind of shocking that they didn't use like the two most popular.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Carnivores.
I'll tell you.
It was supposed to come out in 1994 and be stop motion originally. The script has been kicking around since '87.
Really?
Yes. When they did that
originally,
wow.
Yeah, they were gonna do stop motion. And then they kept, as it kept going on, technology improved. And what happened is a little film known as Jurassic Park came out in 1993, and Disney's executives really wanted to see if that movie would flop or succeed. When they saw it succeeded, they then said, "Hey, we need to make our own movie." And they specifically did not want to use a Velociraptor or a Tyrannosaurus because there was
really fun.
Jurassic Park. Yeah. So they went with the Carnosaur. And like, interesting enough, Carnosaurs in this film are double the size of what they are in real life because they wanted to make it still have that menacing nature.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I got a few things to say about them, just as far as like symbolics and parallels and everything.
I think the
so
symbology behind them is great, though.
I really like to use them, and also, yeah, just how they look and everything. I'm not going to spoil it all now, but yeah.
But yeah, soundtrack is great. Special effects are great. Everything is like crazy pretty. There's some parts where you can kind of tell that it's aged, but the thing is that like it's a movie from 2000. It has no business looking as good as it does. It has no business looking as it does. There's effects in modern movies that are not anywhere near as good, and I'm talking like modern Disney movies. Like, I mean, everybody knows about the fucking Doctor Strange with a third eye in the center of his head. There is nothing in this movie that looks as bad as that.
His face is worse than any face in this movie.
MODOK is the best.
Yeah. This movie, it's just good. It's a good film. 10 out of 10, or not 10 out of 10, but you know.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
not 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 is a big one. Yeah. CGI is 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about this film is it actually had two big, like, basically it was two scripts in development for the whole time. The first one was supposed to be a silent film, with only dinosaur sounds, no speaking in it, and it was just going to be you watch their faces of the characters, and that's how you knew what was going on. Then, because they wanted to market the film more towards kids instead of teens and adults, they leaned on Land Before Time, and it's another fantastic series of dinosaur movies. Excuse me. So they really said, "Hey, we need to make them talk and have a little bit of emotion in it to help." Otherwise, it was just going to be kind of like Walking with Dinosaurs, which has been cited several times.
I was going to say, it would have been like Walking with Dinosaurs, or there's another one that we talked about last week that I'm just blanking on. But both of those just had the same thing where you know, they were basically, what I'm saying was 4-year-old me loved both, so they were kind of pussies for not doing the other one where it's just dinosaur grunts and the mom dinosaur being like, "What the hell did you do, you retard?"
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, and like why it works is because, you know, obviously there's multiple dinosaurs and different species of them we see throughout the movie, and depending on whether a given dinosaur is like a character or rather like a more greater symbolic thing, the ones that are kind of representative of more abstract concepts are the ones that don't talk. And I really like how they had it a certain way. Like, for example, the Carnotaurs do not talk. And the reason for that, I thought, was because of what they represented as kind of like the death and suffering in the world that these guys are trying to escape from. I know I'm kind of spoiling, but like the idea of them talking would be absurd, you know, but almost be like cannibalism is going on or something like that. When instead, what they
a little bit, my friend, you might want to bounce and rejoin the call then. You're roboting. It's hard to hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
But yeah, it's kind of funny that he raised that because they have a dog. They have a dog later
I
on.
do want to bring
They-
up some for chat. Answer a question for chat real quick before we get into the dog. Kaisuba wants to know. He wants to know how the Carnotaurus' sound design was made. I actually have information for you on that. Believe it or not, like I said, I very much wanted to. The way I do things, I try to find a lot of like information, crazy things, and ideas about the movie. The Carnotaur originally had it sound as a mix between lions and howler monkeys. That's how they got that sound, according to assuming IMDb isn't lying to me for the record.
Dude, I've got a good note on some of the sounds that the dinosaurs make because I recognize them as certain animal sounds, and we're going to get into that. But yeah, I like the way they implemented it with certain characters. We'll get to it. You know.
Anyway, so yeah, we should get into the plot synopsis. Kind of run this down real quick. Get into how Aladar is Moses Dar.
That's
So I
right.
do
So
wanna
we
say-
open up.
Yeah, but
we
before
open up
even
with
get
a
into that,
show.
we have to start before the film even starts because there's a few things we got to hit on. First, I want to say Aladar was originally supposed to be named Noah. Just
Ah!
Oh my!
Oh, really?
God.
Okay.
Crap.
Wow.
Switches to live chat. I had it on top chat. I want all you edgy boys and girls to not get silenced by YouTube. Don't worry.
Oh
It'll
my.
be on the replay for the live people. This movie also has the highest death toll of any animated Disney film ever.
Does it?
Really?
Yes.
I believe.
Oh,
Yeah, that makes sense.
because they take out because they do take out like a good 20 people in like the opening scene. So, or I guess
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. Because we see them, and then they're,
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
ones that die of thirst too later on. Yeah.
Do we see
It
one
is a lot of
dying
dying in
of
this
thirst?
movie.
I
Yeah,
know
no,
we definitely see a lot die, but was there dying of thirst? I don't remember.
Yeah.
seeing that.
there was
the-
only one or two times. There is a scene where they stumble upon as they're coming through the desert. They do see like a corpse or two. Yeah,
Oh,
getting
okay.
eaten up, and we see them getting eaten up by the scavengers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kid,
so
I
you
have
remember
no
the scene
clue.
where the Carnotaur is chasing him after he leaves the cave, Des, to go back to the pack? He eats the dead
Yeah.
one. That one died of thirst.
Oh, I thought that. Oh yeah, gotcha.
Now, a couple other things I want to hit on before we get into it. This is the fourth ever Disney movie to not have any humans. The first one was Bambi, which there's no humans on screen in Bambi, remember? Then it was Robin Hood, the one with all the fox people, and then the Lion King, and then this.
You don't need to call them fox people. They're called furries. Okay.
They're not.
Everyone knows
There's
what
multiple. There's different species of people.
Yeah, but so,
In-
the fox, the fox Robin Hood.
But
Look,
yeah, that one's
they're
great
kids.
too.
It's just furries.
Well, hey,
like
there's
you
a
just
couple
said.
other things. This is Walt Disney's first non-Pixar computer animated film. So like that's even more impressive. This movie was not officially recognized by Disney as an official animation studios film until 2008, which
That's
is
right.
wild. This film didn't make enough money for them to consider it a Disney film.
That's very funny.
This film was saved on the home DVD sales. It kind of barely broke even during the box office, but it doubled its revenue in home sales.
Dude, I watched the hell out of that VHS.
That's how we had it, man. Yeah, it was that big block, the cassette tape, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I want to do
what I
this
remember.
last fun fact before we get started because there's a meteor. We all know there's a meteor coming. But this person here, this is the touch grass end of IMDb. A meteor that size would not have only vaporized everything within 20 miles, but caused waves 100 feet high, set the entire world on fire, and started a winter that would have lasted a decade. Not to mention, flash fried everything from that distance to within 200 to 700 mile per hour winds at 700 degrees Fahrenheit, actually.
Well, guess what, pal? Lemurs and dinosaurs wouldn't coexist the way that they do either. So
Actually, they did.
Like, come on.
No, lemurs. They picked
not
lemurs
like
specifically because they existed at this time. We have lemur skeletons at this
They
time.
existed at the time, yeah, but they wouldn't be riding on their backs and
Oh,
talking
yeah,
to
yeah.
you.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a children's
Like,
movie.
come on.
Come on, buddy.
Look, Pag, I watched quite a lot of children's dinosaur thing, and they had them not speaking. They had them acting how they theoretically would. And then every 5 minutes, a guy would be like, "And this is the science behind it." I'm like, "Holy crap!
All right,
I
but
don't
this
care,
isn't that.
science guy. Give me the dinosaurs grunting at each other.
I feel
Hell
like-
yeah!"
I feel like Pop's next is going to be like, I think you need to know that dinosaurs did not actually talk. Dinosaurs, they were not.
That's not true.
Yeah,
Pop,
no, like,
Words
Pop-
not
Pop-
capable of speaking.
Whoa,
you
Pack,
want to like you're gonna bring up the physics of the world, and it's like, yeah, no, they also like Crone wouldn't have a tiger's roar, Brontosaurus and everyone wouldn't be getting along in a herd. Like, it's what are you talking about? Yeah, it's not realistic, but it's not. It's dinosaurs, bro. Like, just give it the credit for what it is. It tells a great story. Like, you could literally learn a lot as like if somebody wants to be a storyteller, just from the way that like the different interactions that the characters have and what everyone's characterization is and stuff. Like, you got to take into account that this is a story being told that is enjoyable and was a core part of people's childhood. So maybe I'm over defending it, but you know what I mean.
And the last thing I want to say that is really interesting about this film before we get into it. This film was originally conceived in 1986 during the filming of a little movie called RoboCop. Phil Tippett
Really?
and Paul Verhoeven, the people who were working on the animatronic for Edie, that's the big robot, they had a pause because during the production of that film that they had to, because they were in the middle of filming a scene, and I believe it was Peter Weller's. He had some stunt shoes he had to wear that didn't fit right, so they had to pause the whole production for a few hours. Go get it. While they were doing it, they were making fun of how Edie looks kind of like a stupid dinosaur with lizard legs, and then they said we should one day shoot a dinosaur movie, and that's when they started figuring it out.
Are you sure that's true? That's
It's been
crazy.
cited multiple times by multiple people, including the director of the film.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he also made a film in 1984 called Prehistoric Beasts, and it featured it's called a Centrosaurus. It's like a Triceratops with only one horn fighting a T-Rex. And he thought it was interesting to have to film a movie where dinosaurs were talked. Yes, and also iguanodons didn't have lips like that. That's true. IMDb has that 4 times cited there that they actually were duckbill, because people need to go outside on IMDb stuff.
Yeah, of course. Man, that almost that kind of like the way that whole thing happened by chance like that almost plays in like in a meta way some of the themes that the movie has as well. I don't want to get into that because it'll just be a schizo rant, but yeah, I'll point it out. Don't worry.
The last thing we're going to cover is the original script for this film. Had something called a Styracosaurus. It's like again, it's a Triceratops, but it's a huge single horn, and he's fighting his name is Woot. He's fighting a T-Rex named Gronzi, and he has a small mammal named Siri, which that name does come back, as a supporting character. After Woot defeats Gronzi in a final fight, during the celebration, the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event would occur, when the dinosaur would be crushed by the meteor.
That would have been so funny. That would have been so based. Holy crap!
Really, these guys really wanted to do something with the unicorn and then have it go extinct.
That would have been so based.
It would have been so funny.
That would have been so based.
I think
Holy
at this point,
crap.
it's a good time for us to now actually talk about the plot.
All right. Do we have a video set up or what?
Wow.
We are the video.
All right, sweet. So let's get into.
If we delay for another 4 minutes, apparently, according to the internet, it'll have downloaded the video. I will have the film on screen for everybody.
Was that legal?
Do that?
Yes,
my lord.
I have a special EFAP stolen cover. You see,
well, if
there's a copyright shield, children. This Doge NFT that I have, so they will have to claim that they own this stupid Doge NFT if they want to claim the movie. And we're gonna have it silent, by the way. We're not gonna actually have the audio playing. And we're going to be pausing it and talking over it too. Don't worry. I've seen several people cover this before this way. EFAP, for example, does it. So we should be okay.
Yeah, but this time we're fucking with Disney.
They don't actually want to claim ownership of this movie, remember?
Yeah, remember?
They didn't want to claim it until 2008. It is, in fact, past 2008.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, he's lying.
Anyway, I can't argue that. I can't.
Des, you remember what happens at the beginning, or do you not remember?
No, I was actually not born when this movie came out, so I don't remember.
Alright. So you can't speak on it, bro. Stop
He was
it.
not actually born in the early Cretaceous period. So.
I was not born in the early Cretaceous period, or when this movie was made, so I cannot speak on the beginning of this movie.
Here we go.
Like the fact that I've seen it many times.
Well, no, you got to get a kick out of this. The original script had an iguanodon named Noah wandering around with his grandparents. He also had a lemur named Suri and an old lemur named Adam following him. They also had a group of carnivores were fighting them. Eventually, a rival iguanodon named Cain would show up and try to
Oh my goodness!
Wait, no way.
Yes.
I had no idea. I watched the movie and like had my own interpretation. I had no idea there was this history behind it.
Yeah, that they were really going for it.
But it's even funnier because Noah originally had the ability to see the future and could see an asteroid that was coming, so he attempted to guide the dinosaurs to safety. I'm so glad we did not get that version for the record.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit weird.
Anything else on the script for now?
Not on the script, but the company's secret lab was funded by... Only in America this happened.
Israel?
No, Secret Lab was made by Dream Quest Images staff as well as feature animation department staff. They merged together to form Secret Lab. Secret Lab originally was founded in Burbank, California, and was reconstructed from former Lockheed Martin devs who also injected cash into it to assist the company.
Okay, well, I mean,
why?
Wait, guys. In a way, Tag was right. To be fair,
so
if you
true.
think about it.
Operation
basically
is why we have Dinosaur, boys. The first one.
This is why you gotta support the troops, fellas.
So true, Oomphy. I am saluting and crying.
Exactly. Another thing that apparently happened during the original CGI for the film, the scene with we'll cover the scene specifically. Don't worry, guys. The scene with the rain had one of the lemurs outside, attempting to help Aladar. Unfortunately, the rig kept crashing because it couldn't simulate the fur effects of being covered in water too well. So they decided to just move the monkey inside to prevent the computers from burning out. This cost them 2 computers out of the 300 that we used to process this film.
That's very funny.
They actually burnt out 2 computers. That's impressive, honestly.
What year was that?
Peg, you're not an engineer,
96
so you would know this.
through 2000 is when they were doing these films, apparently.
Peg, you don't know this because you're not an engineer, but as an engineer, I will say, the first time, that might have been a fluke. The second time, you're not wasting the money on the third one. So you're not wasting money on a fourth one. So you buy that third one, you do it, and you say, well, I'm not trying that a third time. But the second time, well, you gotta see if it was a fluke.
That's fair. I just think it's funny that they actually burnt these computers. Like they actually destroyed them. It wasn't just crashing. They fucking destroyed them.
So if we want to, 300. I did Minecraft World. They had 300 computers processing for about 6 months straight to get the film fully rendered out.
Yeah, well, if you want to make an omelet, you know what I mean.
You got to destroy some computers.
The tool that they developed to use this thing was something called Alias Maya, which Maya is still a tool that is used to this day to help with facial animation and rigging. If you ever see Skyrim mods where the characters do weird things, that's how. Pitting a computer short out making the live action thinking, I agree, Starbolt. Oh, that thing is bad.
Wait, Alias, how is Alias spelled?
Like ALIAS?
Okay, yeah, that's funny because that's Latin. You know what an alias is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe Mia in Spanish means like mine or hers.
Maya.
So it means like fake identity.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
All right.
So the
companies usually do that.
So there's one more thing here. I personally got huge vibes of Treasure Planet when watching this film, as well as Atlantis. And you might say, well, that's weird. Why did you get those vibes when you watch this, kid? Well, the film's composer is James Newton Howard, who is noted as working on The Lion King. He also was the head composer for Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Treasure Planet, Raya and the Lost Dragon, as well as doing some additional work for Around the World in 80 Days, Lilo and Stitch, and the Wild Thornberrys movie. The Egg Travel song has been cited as his best piece of work ever and is used in multiple Disney films throughout the time and also in commercials to promote things from cereal to Disney-related movies. Oh, that's cool.
Is
Dude,
the egg traveling? Is that the name of the song?
Yes.
I got to tell you, dude,
The Egg Travels.
it really, because the egg does travel in this movie.
It do be traveling, that's true.
See, but dude, you guys chat. If you haven't seen this movie in a little bit, you got to watch it again. The soundtrack, it really, really gives you the tone of like, this is an epic journey. It's almost like an Odyssey in a way.
It's good, yeah.
It is definitely worth it. By the way, this film only lost in sales to a couple really impactful movies because we used to get like 40 good movies a year, chat, instead of one. The reason this movie brought lost money is because it released against How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Shrek, and Pearl Harbor. How are you going to compete against those?
Yeah, Disney.
And Shrek, yeah, they never stood a chance.
Yeah, not just that, Shrek and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So now you
Yeah.
got two classics.
The Jim Carrey one. I was like trying to think. I'm like, The Grinch Stole Christmas, and I just kept
Jim
on thinking
Carrey.
of the '60s one.
The
I
Jim
kept on
Carrey
thinking of the '60s one. I was not thinking of the Jim Carrey one. I kept
Jim
on thinking
Carrey
of the
one.
Jim Carrey.
Possibly my favorite Christmas movie. I can quote it.
I love the Jim Carrey one. It's awesome. I love the Jim Carrey.
Also, this film released the same weekend as Mission Impossible 2 and Gladiator in theaters.
Really?
Yeah.
It was doomed to
Wow.
fail.
It
Did
was
it do well?
doomed. It never stood a chance.
Disney
Literally.
Disney had a weird history between this and Treasure Planet too. Of like, I don't know if they did
Setting
it on
up
purpose,
movies to fail.
but yeah, setting up.
Well, I
Treasure
mean,
Planet,
This one they didn't set up to fail. This one,
Yeah.
the only way they set it up to fail was putting it up against movies that, like, some of it you kind of should have expected. Like Grinch,
What
you
do
should
you
have
mean?
expected that was gonna, that was gonna win.
Like in-
Shrek is not that big a deal. Not expecting it to win because
Yeah.
Shrek was an unknown quantity at the time.
But Mission Impossible 2?
Mission Impossible 2 is not a great movie. So honestly, they should have expected it to fail against that. But, in hindsight, pretty good bet. Pretty good bet
I
considering
don't think I've ever seen the second one.
Mission Impossible 2 is a fantastic series. 2 is the only one that sucks.
I see.
Although it does have Tom Cruise on the side of a mountain with
Yes.
no harnesses because
Guys,
Tom Cruise wanted to do
No, I think you need to understand.
wall climbing.
2000 was packed with killer films. The Road to
Yeah.
El Dorado came out then. We had
I
Sting,
love that movie.
Joseph King of Dreams, The Patriot, Titan AE.
God.
Like, there's so many great films. Emperor's New Groove came out, I think, around that time too.
Wow.
American Psycho came
I think-
out.
Wow. So it's just a tough year.
Yeah,
It's just a tough year to release movies.
Again, we used to get great movies all the time. It used to be like
Eh,
packed full of things.
2000.
Like, Memento came out
Wow.
as well. Let's see.
Yeah, no, they never stood a chance. There was too many bangers, including themselves.
Including
Emperor's New
themselves.
Groove is a banger. I love that movie.
The first X-Men movie came out.
Oh yeah, that's when X-Men came out. Wasn't Spider-Man as well? The first one also 2000 or?
I think that was 2002.
I think it was two. Yeah.
That was 02. Yeah. That's my bad.
Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah,
dude,
dude.
they had no chance. They had, of course they're gonna suffer with trying to make this movie.
Like people, it wasn't like at this point Jurassic Park. My voice cracked. At this point, Jurassic Park was close to a decade old, and I mean, even that franchise wasn't putting out the best stuff anymore. So people weren't really about the dinosaur movies, which is why I think, despite please let me. I'm just saying, despite the kind of more mature, subtle messaging, it really was something that had to be marketed to the younger, the kids who would be into dinosaurs. You know what I mean? So they had a limited kind of range of what they could appeal to at the time.
they were always going to appeal to kids. I mean, it's a Disney kids
Any-
movie. But regardless, oh my goodness, he's got the stream up. Anyways, I totally disagree because I feel like when did Walking with Dinosaurs? That was like around the same time. So it was like the new semi-renaissance of like dinosaur stuff where it's like 2000. This competed with Walking with Dinosaurs on like shelves. So considering it made money on the what's it called,
I'm just thinking
on the like DVD sales, that's pretty good because like this was the time where like it's like, oh my goodness, there's dinosaurs and you're just gonna watch grunting dinosaurs at each other. Like for a kid, that was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
It was the thing. The only thing this movie doesn't have is they actually decided to put a story in it, which ruined my grunting dinosaurs. But I mean, regardless, it still was entertaining, and I loved it as a kid.
So now we can do the plot synopsis, chat. Are you all
right?
So the film opens with a carnivore hunting a herd of dinosaurs, destroying
No,
an
it's-
iguanodon nest, and killing a Pachyosaurus.
Wait, is our main character an iguanodon?
you're-
Pachyosaurus.
Yeah, it's a iguanodon.
Okay.
Because firstly, it opens with narration, even before this. Because we'll get.
Who's
like
that narrator? Who is
So
that?
it opens up on a shot of a baby iguanodon that we have to assume, I guess, is our boy Aladar inside of an egg, like in the embryo with a little, the orange light around him. And we get a quote from the narrator that says, I think it says, like, even the smallest things can bring about the greatest change.
Yep.
Which I think is great as far as like symbolism, or not symbolism, but basically just the message of the story, especially whether it's on account of like the smallest amount of kindness, which is a theme that we'll see about, like, taking in the neighbor and like being kind to those in need. The smallest amount of that can be good, and also the way that characters in this movie who are like smaller than a lot of the other ones can have a big impact on the way that things progress. So that's a good. There. We only get narration like right at the beginning and then right at the end.
More than that,
it iguanodon is. Here's my favorite iguanodon meme of all time.
It's a great iguanodon meme. I will say it. The theme applies a little bit less to Eldar himself and more to his adoptive parents and grandparents, since they instill a lot of the values that get the film going and stuff. Because Eldar's pretty big.
Oh yeah, 100%. We're gonna get into that in probably 5 minutes when we meet them. But well, that kind of like shapes Aladar for the rest of the story too. Yeah.
So, like I was saying, the Carnotaur kills a Pachyosaurus, basically a not-Triceratops. The lone surviving iguanodon egg is stolen by an overraptor, and after a series of mishaps, arrives on an island inhabited by prehistoric lemurs. Pilo, the daughter of lemur patriarch Yar, names the newly hatched baby Aladar and raises him alongside her daughter Suri over Yar's initial protestations and piss.
And then there's a 20-year time skip, and they're all adults now.
But we cannot skip over the setup of the world during the journey of the egg. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for real. Also, that what the hell is the flying one's called? Pterodactyl. That's what it is. Yeah, that pterodactyl carried the egg like 87 trillion miles without eating the egg. It's seriously like 3/4 of the surface of the Earth.
No, hang on. So before we even get into that,
Ag, I know you're not a mother, but a mother will do anything for a child. Okay, so maybe you should write that down. Okay? Ask your wife how your wife.
Children grew old and died in the time she was. She had to travel from like Cape Cod to Moscow.
Okay, she's hashtag working mother. Okay, Pag. Maybe you could learn something. Okay.
So true. Mea culpa.
Since it's on screen, I really like the detail of the Carnotaurus. Like at first it's chasing the small guy. I cannot for the life of me remember that dinosaur's name.
He's a little Timmy.
Huh?
It's little Timmy.
Yeah, sure. I like how he like is initially after Little Timmy is like, I freaking want to eat this guy, and then he gets distracted by like
every Disney movie, we have the mother basically either abandoning or having to leave the child because of circumstance. And like Moses, his mother has to abandon him and kind of leave him to chance because of the circumstances. And what does he do? He floats down the river.
Mm-hmm.
Just like our
all
boy
the way to Israel.
the best. It's
So-
well, it's Egypt. It is Egypt.
Yeah. Oops, that's kind of the wrong direction.
What's great?
Hey!
But dude, listen. So what's great about this scene is that we see throughout the egg's journey, it feels like we're on the adventure with the egg, right? It's like everything is from kind of the egg's point of view, and we see multiple times dinosaurs. They steal it, they fight over it. One of them tries to eat it and spits it back up. The pterosaur up out of the water and tries to use it to feed his kids. And what we see about that is that despite like the dinosaur world has this like natural beauty and everything with the beautiful landscape shots, this scene was really well done. But at the same time, it's dangerous and things are very much left up to chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
it's only through Providence that this egg survived. One might say.
And then we get the juxtaposition from that, the kind of like dangerous, unpredictable dinosaur world where everyone is out for themselves and individualistic in their goals, to the lemurs who, in real life even, they exist in social groups and they help out one another. And so that's why Aladar later on, he learns, he grows up within the paradigm of like wanting to help others and everything. And it's very much. Yep. And so even Yar, the kind of grandfather of the lemurs, when he first sees the dinosaur Aladar hatch out of the egg, and Pleo is like, "Come on, can we keep him?" He's like, "That's a flesh-eating monster from across the sea. We can't, you know." But even him, when she's like, "All right, are you going to follow up on your word and like throw him over the cliff or something?" He's like, "I can't do it. He's too cute." It shows that like they all have this instinctual compassion on that.
He gets peed on.
I was gonna say even after he's peed on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The humor in this movie is also very good. Like there's a few things here and there. It's still funny today as an adult, you know.
I don't know if I'd put the pee joke in there, but I would definitely say some of the comedy is good. Yeah,
I wouldn't put the second pee joke in there, but the first one I think was good. I think it was a good pee joke. It's rare to get a good pee joke.
Honestly, you might be too young or not have been around enough babies to understand the pee joke. It's one of those things like that's a relatable humor. Because babies will do that to you if you're not careful.
I know babies will do that. I have dealt with babies, mainly my brother. But yes, like I get they do that, but
it's not the pee joke specifically in this scene that still, you know, pee is always funny, peeing on somebody. But like anyway,
that is true.
Listen. Right before that is another funny bit that they did where you know, Yar, the monkey, the old lemur. Excuse me. He goes, "Oh, things like that eat things like us. It's a vicious monster. We can't, you know." And then we see the baby dinosaur, and he kind of burps, and it's just like the cute little like juxtaposition there, where he's like, "That thing is dangerous," and it's like, "Yeah, no, it's obviously not." So it sets up the scene. It's funny, it's cute, and it shows why they have this compassion for this cute little baby. So I love the way that they set that up, because the entire time until we meet the lemurs, there's no words spoken.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dinosaur world is very kind of beastly. You know, it's not a lot of communication. It's brutal. Everyone's out for himself. Versus the lemurs, who communicate with one another, and they take in the stranger, which is kind of the theme about this whole movie, is that you help the needy because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and that's kind of, you know, fits his personality for the rest of the whole movie. Like that becomes his whole shebangle. Yeah, it shows why it's entirely why he is the way that he is because of how he was raised like that. So he has a whole different like process of thought when it comes to you know, the way that he treats others and all that. So we'll get into that too, because it shows up over and over again. It's great.
I zoned out for a second, but I don't know if you guys commented on this, but I really like the joke where it's like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? You know, he'll grow up and be a meat-eating thing. You know, it's you know, we'll just teach him not to eat meat, and then the first thing they show is him chasing the lemurs and then pretending to eat one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Bad joke. I do like. That's a really good one.
Yeah. It's part of the humor, yeah, because what it does. it's part of the humor that we do that. So like we see that there's all the danger in the dinosaur world, but we transition from him being a baby to him being like basically a young adult. And there's lemurs, and they cut immediately. They're like, "What's the worst that could happen?" And then it shows them jumping and screaming. And Aladar's all grown up, but then later on, like a second later, we see, they're doing it out of joy. They're playing with one another, and they've got. And then we jump into the little courtship ceremony, which again kind of shows that they're in this kind of blissful, funny, joyful world. Everyone's making jokes.
The transition from childhood.
I'm going to interrupt you solely because you're skipping into a second scene, and I wanted to comment on the first scene still. But like, yeah, they cut into them play fighting.
Drake,
huh?
The Indominus Rex is in here.
Well, I want
to answer that question. Send a super chat.
Oh my! Yeah, what are we doing? This is a different movie. Yeah, like they're play fighting, almost, because it is so distant to them that it's something that you do, where it's just so far off. It's like kids pretending they're like knights or pirates or something like that nowadays.
Yeah, that's why it's so important that they're like geographically removed from the dinosaur world, and they're apprehensive to it at first, but this is really the only dinosaur that they've kind of been around besides probably the pterosaurs,
I just want to say it because the scene's playing on the screen. One of the lines when Aladar goes to pick up the monkey guy is, "Girls, if you pick me, I'll groom you. That'll get them," something like that. The first part I know is exactly right. What the hell did they mean by this? Anyway,
was it Zinni, the little blonde one with the
the blonde guy?
Yeah, Zinni,
if you pick me, I'll groom you.
Zinni's character almost bothered me with how he ended up, but yeah. So
Zinni doesn't really do anything, and then just gets girls at Zinni does nothing and then gets girls at the end.
Yeah, he strikes out hard. So they're doing the coming of age ritual. Where all the boys and the girls are finding out how much they really like boys and girls. And then Aladar's adopted mom and adopted grandpa are kind of like, oh, man, it sucks that our boy Aladar, he can't find nothing because there's no guanodons around here. He'll be happy just dying, of old age, I hope. But he's a friendly guy at least. And then, if only there was something that we could do to help him. Some little change that would help push him to the mainland. And their wish is granted as all of a sudden there's a meteor shower. And
I'm going to have to interrupt you. I want to interrupt you because they actually have another really good joke in the scene where they're like, where all the where the grandpa is saying like all this advice to the guys and all this advice to the girls, and it's the complete opposite. The
mom's advising the girls like, all right, so remember, don't give in too easily. The first time they do a flip,
give
them a second time. The grandpa's like, if you fail the first flip, give up. Don't try a different girl.
Yeah, exactly.
What they say is so we see I think her name is Pleo. She's talking to the girls and giving them a pep talk, and she goes, "Don't fall for the first cool backflip. We want to keep them guessing." And then we cut to Yar with the fellas, and he goes, "And if the cool backflip doesn't work, guess."
Yeah,
it's so great. But yeah, we see them, and it's interesting that kind of Zinni, the weird blonde lemur, and Aladar are both kind of fish out of water. They're both kind of outcasts and weirdos just by circumstance. Like Zinni, he was trying to dance with a girl, but he got his foot caught in a vine, and he kind of got left behind as everyone else was swinging around. Mm-hmm. It shows they're kind of like twins in that way, even though they're different species and everything. But then there's a scene where, Pleo goes up to Aladar while everyone else is hanging out in this big tree with the water. And she's like, don't you wish you had a girl? And the humor here is good, too. She goes, don't you wish there was a dinosaur that looked like you, except, I don't know, prettier? And so it's funny because we kind of get the immediate, juxtaposition with the inciting event right after this, where Aladar literally is just like, he's like, he goes, nah, I'm not worried about that. I got my family, we all, get along. We love each other. And he, I think he says, he goes, what more could I want? And it shows he's satisfied with his life in that little kind of haven. He's comfortable. He doesn't even he doesn't know about the outside world, and he doesn't even want anything from it. He hasn't even thought about it. So it's almost so again, with the inciting event here, we have a dual kind of meaning where I think they're almost getting ejected from the Garden of Eden when this meteor hits.
Something like that for sure.
He's got everything he wants. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got everything he wants. He's got no natural predators. They've never even seen something like him, clearly. And he just hanging out with these little monkey guys who all look up to him, literally. Like, why? He's got a great little life. So yeah, I could totally see that being a
Iguanodon GF.
no iguanodon GF. God's got to steal a rib first.
Yep, but
In the form of murdering his
God's
whole
meat
family. Yeah.
And then
it massacres all the monkeys. You watch them
That's
violently
not true.
drown, some get burned alive, and they all run and escape. Only his
It is an
family
extremely hardcore scene.
It's a very
Hey,
hard
kid,
scene. It goes
kid,
hard.
they didn't all die. A whole 5 of them lived. Okay.
That's true. And there were more elsewhere.
because it's
No, those were
they're-
mainland. Those were
you're on
mainland.
the other
5
yeah,
lived.
that's way like that was almost just thrown in there just so that we didn't worry about a certain character. But yeah, it's interesting because what we see here is the first they look up at the meteor shower and they go, "Oh, it's beautiful," and it's almost like similar to the dinosaur world, where it's like it is a beautiful scene to look at, but like it is very very dangerous, and like going there is dangerous and it will affect you and everything. I like what they did with the flaming kind of meteorite because what we see is that it lands in the water at a distance and it's huge, but also they use the water to show like how the waves get kicked up, and the shock wave showing the scale of it is very good. I like how they use the water for it rather than just having it like hit the ground somewhere.
Well, it would have just killed everybody instantly if it hit the ground, which is why.
Yeah,
The water at least absorbs from the impact and makes it so the waves get pushed up, which is still horrific and horrible, but it's less lethal.
Something that they did, which I like, is that they gave it a mushroom cloud, which I mean is accurate. An explosion that big would have a mushroom cloud, but also they didn't need to do that, and it just makes it instantly recognizable in like the eyes of their viewers. This is a big bad. This is the big bad.
And
actually, their retinas would be burned, and they would not be able to see for the rest of the movie.
That is true.
How do you know? You never saw a dinosaur retina.
You know what?
We didn't study. We don't got dinosaur eyes.
They could
Well,
be.
we have
They could be
monkey eyes.
totally resistant.
I think you're. This is actually a good experiment. We should do another nuke. Let's put it in
Madagascar. Yeah. See how the lemurs.
Let's nuke Madagascar, and let's put. We'll see how the monkeys react to it, and we'll see if their retinas get burned.
All right. Well, I'll tell you.
I'll fund this.
What else I liked about this scene is that so they all jump on Aladar's back, the ones that can get to him out of the tree. Basically his immediate family, who we know at this point, and they end up jumping off a cliff into the ocean and like getting pushed, basically trying to swim and struggling all the way across the sea into this new dangerous world, mysterious, unknown, other world outside of their little haven, their Garden of Eden. And it's I'm going full Bible here, but I'm saying it's almost like a baptism scene, because like the whole point of baptism is that you get like drowned and reborn, and these guys were on the verge of death, all of them. And then retrospectively, because what they do is they howl back at the island and they're like sad and everything. They're looking at their little Garden of Eden and knowing they can never go back because the whole thing is burned down now.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, you could do an absolutely sick edit if you took this scene and just put Fortunate Son over it, as well as some helicopter sound effects. It would go very hard.
I don't know if I agree with that, because the whole point of the Garden of Eden is that like it still exists. It's still there. You're not allowed to go back because it's guarded, not because it's wiped out. Which
Garden specifically, but it representing a promised land, a state of bliss and happiness that's now taken away by the cruelness of nature. But yeah.
Also, it doesn't have to be 1-to-1 to be a
You know what? I want to be 1-1. What if I say that? It has to be 1-1.
Then I'm gonna kiss you on your teeth.
That's kind of gay. That's extremely gay. I don't know how I would feel about that.
I know how you'll feel about that.
Speaking of teeth, our homies swim to the mainland. And they start walking around and they see everything is a burnt desert scarred by the meteor. And they meet some dinosaurs and they're like, oh, these guys will be our friends. And it turns out they're velociraptors who try to immediately eat them.
That's not true. They walk a little bit to the desert before doing that.
Hang on. Even right before this, what I like to point out here is because Aladar gathers up the crew and he's like, come on, guys, we can't go back. We got to move on. And he's basically like, just come on, we gotta leave, we gotta move, we gotta find something new. It almost shows that the meteorite, the burning star or whatever, is in a way, now again, schizo Bible stuff. It's almost like a parallel to the burning bush commanding him, in it, not a command, but like kind of forcing him. Now you have to lead your people to a new land. It's now that's a little over the top, I think. That's
I think
reaching.
that is A, over the top, and B, it was absolutely a command.
Escape from the velociraptors, and they join a
Right.
multi-species herd of dinosaurs heading for the communal nesting grounds. They stumble around for a bit and encounter an iguanodon, the one in charge of this pack, named Kron. He sort of banishes them to the end of the line, because while there they befriend an old Styracosaurus named Ema and her pet Ankylosaurus Earl, who's definitely not just a retarded guy, and her equally elderly friend Baleen, a Brachiosaurus.
I mean,
They had names.
They had names, yeah. You didn't realize that?
No.
Okay.
Their dog was named Earl.
They don't really get banished to the back of the line. They choose to go to the back of the line.
Well, they're just old and slow.
Well, no, I mean the old ones. The old ones were old and slow. I mean, Aladar chose the back of the bus.
Oh, yeah.
He chose the back of the bus. Like he put what's his face? Kron was like, "Hey, you want to come to the front of the bus?" And he's like, "No, I'm going to the back of the
He's
bus."
like, "You want to be up here with us, fellow master race?" And he's like, "No, I think of equality." Oh, cringe! Get in the back of the line.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, come up if you change your mind, but like, yeah.
You're killing me. So what happens is immediately when they first meet them, they're running from the raptors, and then the herd comes out from the other direction. The first thing Kron says is, "Get out of my way," and then he just moves on. We don't really formally meet him till a little later. Yeah, Aladar just got trampled by everyone and was just standing in awe at this like enormous herd. And then because they were the last ones there, it came up in the back. But dude, that guy Earl, the Stegosaurus, who's like panting like a dog. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I think he's a dog and not just a retarded guy. And it's literally for literally just
a dog.
The one,
yeah,
where they meet. Aladar like looks down at him and he sees this little thing sniffing his feet and panting, like like when you meet a friendly dog, right? And so,
not only that, it's a couple of things because he does that.
Can I please just? I have a punchline.
All right, hit it.
Yeah. So listen, if you've watched the movie, the master movie by just the perfect movie, Knives Out, you would know that a dog is the ultimate judge of character, right? And so because this dinosaur immediately likes him, Ema, the Triceratops, is like, he doesn't usually take kindly to strangers.
I was literally going to say that, yeah.
It's a tiny little detail that just shows, like, yeah, Aladar is the good guy. Like, it's just a tiny little thing there. I don't think Earl played much of a role beyond that, but I liked that they did that just because I noticed.
Earl saves their life later on.
Earl does one more thing, and it is vital. It's of vital importance. He picks up a stick, and by a stick I mean a stalactite, and shows them where the cave is. Based on that, I want to go on a little detour on some neat details, and I was going to hold off to the end. Huh?
A detour on this podcast? Heavens, no.
Yeah. But like a cool detail is that like in the beginning, the Carnotaur is mainly able to get the prey because everyone's immediately scattering, everyone's not going off in all directions. And for the Velociraptors, which was just on screen, it's very similar where the Velociraptors are on the backs, they're chasing Aladar, they're about to get him, and what stops them? It's the fact that he runs into the herd.
It
comes into the end.
It's a crazy thing that because I know exactly what you mean, and I thought of that too when I was watching it. The fact that like these dinosaurs are, as we'll learn, they're very kind of like selfish, individualistic. They don't really care for one another, and yet at the back of their brain, they understand that yes, it's safer to be part of the group and be associated, and have like strength in numbers. So we'll see that come up again. It's almost ironic the fact that they're aware of that, and yet they kind of have that different paradigm where they're kind of just like, I'll leave you behind.
Yeah,
Wikipedia
it's
says,
kind of weird, a weird dichotomy.
Wikipedia says they are led by a social Darwinist.
Yep. Oh yeah. So when we meet Crone after this, now they've all met the group of their new friends, the older dinosaurs and the retard. And so we see, interestingly enough, there's a few kind of like parallels between the two groups. Obviously, Yar, the old lemur, and Ema, the old Triceratops, they get along great and they have like banter with each other. They're kind of like mirrors of each other. I wouldn't say that Earl is a direct mirror of what's his name? Zinni, the blonde one, but they're both kind of like the goofballs of the group. And then Pleo and Baleen, obviously, they're both a little different, but they are kind of like compassionate for each other and compassionate just for the group in general. And we see that over and over with them. Like the first time Ema is telling Baleen, who's the Brontosaurus, she's like, just step on him, just kick him out of the way. Like if there's people in your way. And she's like, oh dear, I could never. Like it shows that she's got that kind of just little gentle disposition. We see a lot of gentle in this movie.
So, fun fact about Baleen: she originally was supposed to be played by you think I'm screwing with you, but I'm not. Originally supposed to be a character named. I'm sorry. Wikipedia's refreshed. Shoot. No.
Well, while you're saying that, I thought it was very interesting that there was a character called Ema, because if my understanding is correctly, that's the I don't remember what language. Might be the Jewish word for like mother, or something like that. It means mother, from my understanding, in one of the languages. Maybe Hebrew.
So, she was supposed to be named Sorbus, and played by Chris Farley, but he died before the film came out. So they rewrote it as a lady.
Huh.
I think it did. I think it helped having her be a lady. You know.
I think it helps tremendously because she's got that big grandma energy.
Yeah, it's not like, like random humor or anything. Like I love Chris Farley, of course, but like, the type of humor that he would be doing, I don't think it fits the tone of like
yeah,
stuff.
I don't
very
think Chris
strange.
Farley would not be. Yeah, Chris Farley would be very weird for that.
that'd be a
Seriously, I
mess.
don't think having a kind of a little bit more, because he would be a little bit more yucky. He's a comedian. You're going to have to do it. It's like, think about Robin Williams.
Yeah,
as
you
the
don't
genie.
hire Chris Farley and not give him jokes.
Yeah, but think about like Robin Williams as the genie. That's the kind of personality you could expect him to have, I would say. At the very minimum, that whole like, oh, I can't believe I'm getting, put at the back of the line with the rejects. You guys are lucky I'm with you. Stuff like that. He'd be making jokes like that the whole time.
Yeah, it's better to have it as like a I'm getting too old for this kind of character, because I think she fits that group as well. It'd be weird to have a Chris Farley guy in that group.
Especially because they already have the lemur, who's the kid, the Zinni, who's very much in that whole comedic, goofy, male character role. Having a matriarch helping, as part of the team really helps give a sense of gravitas to this thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I would. The only thing I thought immediately when you said that it was supposed to be a dude was like, oh, I could see a grandpa-y, patriarchal grandpa-y figure.
Yeah, if I
but
told
then
you
said
Morgan
Farley.
Freeman was playing him.
No. But
sense.
then you said Chris Farley, and then I'm like, never mind. That's not. That's
not
what it would have been. There's no way that would have been.
Yeah, it would have been strange. It would have tasted weird.
Yar Ema almost, they end up like serving as this kind of like like a couple.
You're right. Yar kind of does that role. You're right.
The wise parents of both halves of the group. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah. So at this point, we learn about the nesting grounds. We learn that the herd is heading toward the nesting grounds, which of course is our promised land. It's the most beautiful land you've ever seen, grass and water and everything, and we lay our eggs and everything. Dinosaurs are burned.
It's called the mating ground. What could not be better?
We learn about that, but then we also learn these older dinosaurs are slower because they're old. We learn Baleen is the last of her species and everything. So again, we got a little tragedy there. It just goes to show the scale of destruction and the state that the world is in now, this desert hellscape. And so then they're like, we're too slow. They're trying to push us too hard. And then we meet Crone because Aladar goes, well, why don't you just ask him to slow down for you? Because he's just such a he can't conceptualize of someone being like needlessly cruel. He's just like, oh, why doesn't he just help you then? And then he goes up to Crone and we meet Crone, And the first thing he says is, "Why aren't you up here with the younger dinosaurs?" And then he's like, "Oh, you're carrying lemurs. You're an outcast. You're a weirdo." And I think Crone, as much as I want to say Aladar is like a Moses figure, I was thinking as I watched this, I was like, well, we don't have like a pharaoh. Like, there's no like big antagonist who's like that, who represents like a pharaoh figure. I think Crone is more of like an anti-Moses, and I'll point out some of the parallels when we get to him, because he's not like a pharaoh or anything. Like, he is part of the herd, and he has to push him on and everything. But he's more like a slave driver than anything, and he's directly ideologically opposed to Aladar. So they're kind of like two extremes.
I disagree. He is. They are two extremes, but I wouldn't call him a slave driver, because like the purpose of a slave driver is, of course, to keep the slaves in line. He still wants them to get to the promised land. He's just doing it through much more brutal methods, much more, like Kid said, through the I believe whatever description, Darwinian, where it's like,
It's
if
social
you can't
Darwinist.
keep up,
He
you know,
said if
like
you're too weak to
tough
make
luck.
it, you shouldn't deserve to make it.
Yeah,
'Cause
he's
I-
like, hey, if you don't make it,
Yeah.
that's tough luck, but like, we're gonna make it up here, so like, screw off.
Is he also supposed to be an iguanodon?
Yes, they're all
Yes.
iguanodons.
Okay,
All the main ones are iguanodons.
So why does he look like an absolute badass while Aladar is just kind of like, a dude?
Because
Aladar,
He's kid still technically. He's just
Oh,
a fresh-faced
that's why?
18-year-old, whereas Crom's supposed to be, I think it was 40 was the description. Also,
I don't know.
fun fact, chat. This actor, the man who plays him. You might recognize his voice a little bit. He's not putting on his accent that you probably recognize, but it's Samuel E. Wright. He also plays a little crab in Little Mermaid, named Sebastian.
Oh, really?
That's
Really?
interesting.
That's interesting. I didn't
Unreal.
realize that. I didn't realize, but you're right. That is because all the young iguanodons have that bluish tint, but the two
Yeah.
older ones, Kron and who's the second in command? I forget his name.
Bruton. So I'll tell you.
Bruton.
Bruton.
Both
Bruton.
have the more brown,
So
black stripe thing.
So Crone is he's wrinkled and grizzled, and he's grown up in this harsh landscape, and he very much represents the ideology of the kind of like dog eat dog world that the dinosaurs are from. And then Bruton too is he's his second in command the same way. So then Aladar, the younger one, he's not as wrinkled, he's not as grizzled, he looks kind of innocent. So he's got the blue tint, and then Crone's sister Nira is the one with the pinkish tint, which it shows these are like the matched up males and females that we're gonna see. So we kind of meet Nira a little later on.
No,
But
you meet her in like the same scene. You get more on Kron, not too
Yeah.
much.
A little bit, but you really get to know her more later.
Oh
She
yeah.
says
No, her characterization comes much later than that.
But it's a great character moment for Crone, because Aladar comes up and he's like, who do you think you are even talking to me? And Aladar, asks for help and everything, and he goes, "Let the weak set the pace." Now there's an idea. Like, he immediately dismisses him, and it shows how he's very much invested in his own mentality, and how he doesn't even care for other suggestions. He's that kind of like bullheaded leader. And that's why he's, characterized again as like driving them on very harshly. He doesn't care. He's like, anyone who gets left behind, you get left behind. Like, if you get caught by a predator, you're on your own. I think that was Bruton, but yeah, that's their mentality.
Yeah.
It shows the harshness of the dinosaur world versus Aladar's little comfort in the lemur world, and having like, the compassion and everything.
Mm-hmm. I do like another detail in this where, they do English for most of it, but occasionally for like calls and stuff, they'll still do like
Dino calls.
pseudo dino calls where, I like that.
I'll point out the vocalizations when they come in the scenes, because there's some ones where I'm like, all right, this has meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they just did pass one, which is actually why I brought it up. It was when they're walking in the desert, they did the call out. And
that was like
that's why I wanted.
That was like, because they have like the chain of command, almost like military stuff. So that was almost like the trumpet call. Bruton is the second hand to Crone. He's like the second in command. And his whole deal is he's the one who kind of is directly engaged with the herd as far as the vocalizations and signals. He's like blowing the trumpet, telling them to wake up, telling them to move on and everything. And so his call sounds very much, I would say, like a trumpeting call, right?
I believe in
Yeah,
that scene
I
they
think so.
say specifically it's to move double time. Or maybe that's later. I think that's later actually. Um, but
But either way,
they
yeah,
do
he's like the
sometimes
officer
specify
and
like what they mean.
Yeah, they do that.
Bridge on is the NCO. Anti-whom? So,
So they
yeah,
wanted the
they
desert for
start
40
moving again.
years.
So Nira is there.
Shut up! They go in the desert for 40.
So they
Near-
start wandering the desert, suffering and trying to get through it. They're like, "Hey, don't worry, guys. The break just up ahead. Once we crest this hill, we're gonna have a quick sip at the lake, and then we're halfway there." And they cross over the hill, and they find, unfortunately, the entire lake is dry. They've traveled for several days without water. Most of them aren't going to make it.
Yep.
Kron orders that they should move on immediately, and if the weak have to die, it's unfortunate that we have to move on. We can't sit here and follow.
Yep.
The herd starts to follow on, but Aladar stays behind because Ema and Baleen, the two old ladies, give up because they can't go any further. They were just so dehydrated and so reliant on this. And while
hang on.
Aladar's over there trying to give him a pep talk, we see that Baleen steps on the ground and she starts cracking the ground and the earth underneath her. And then the monkey and Aladar both realize, oh, there's water in there. So they start digging and moving stuff out of the way, and they find, oh, there's actually liquids that we could drink in here. And it calls everybody back.
Like, hey, muddy water, guys. Hell yeah, muddy water. Let's drink some muddy water.
Well, let's take into account that there is a tiny little bit of debate between Aladar and the lemurs, where they're like, "Are you really going to take orders from this like brutal leader? Like that's not how we operate. We are, ideologically opposed." And Aladar's like, "Look, it's better to hang with the herd than to be caught by, those." And he looks back, and we see the Carnotaurs and the little raptors kind of like harrowing them over the desert, like like wolves following a band of travelers. It's like I feel like the good thing with those dinosaurs, the predators, is that they never speak. They roar, they growl, they make like hissing noises and everything. Because what they represent is very different from what our main characters are. They're kind of like the beasts out there following you. They represent the danger of the environment that you're trying to escape from. And so I like the detail that they don't talk.
Well, it's
I
interesting that you
agree.
mentioned that, Pops, because originally in the first draft, the final confrontation with the Carnosaurus, he was supposed to speak.
No way.
Yep, the original
could see-
script had him speak and say something. All of this to fail at the end, and the test audience is like, "What the hell? He could talk." So they
That's
changed
what
it.
I would-
kind of like that, honestly. Personally, I kind of like that. I kind of like him having one line. It should have been a better line than that. But
What was the one?
or maybe
line?
it
All
all of this at the end
all
just to fail.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
lame line.
But
Yeah,
that-
no.
to be
If
fair
it
to
was a
scriptwriters,
better
that
line,
was a placeholder line that they had just to see if it would work.
What people thought,
Yeah.
yeah. But if they had an absolute heater at the right moment, like
Yeah.
just a great line, I could be like, okay, yeah, deal. I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought in. But it would have to that line would have to like tear.
That
ass.
line-
Like, it would
that
have to be
line needs,
really
like,
good.
three more
Giraffes
drafts
is mine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very much a maybe for me for the same reason I brought up like probably an hour ago now. But
Mhm.
because like if you
They
have
symbolize death. Yeah, they symbolize the death stalking the land.
if you have them talk, it almost becomes like they're consuming another intelligent species. It's almost like weirdly jarring. Like, oh, are they like cannibals? Like, do they really just
I mean,
kill?
it's not. It's not.
In a
It's
way,
not cannibalism. That's not
Well,
Fun fact:
intelligence.
this gets brought up in 2 days in my Dinotopia video. Go watch it. Be ready, boys and girls.
No, this totally is cannibalism.
No,
if
it's
I,
not.
If
There
I,
are
if I
different
eat a
species.
sapient alien,
Because-
okay,
No,
so
no,
wait,
no,
wait,
no.
wait.
If you eat
Okay,
a sapient
yes.
alien species,
Yes.
I am going to take the stand that if you eat a sapient alien species, it is not cannibalism.
Okay, wait. But can we agree that it is
Uh-huh.
something akin to cannibalism?
It's not the species thing. It's the fact that this thing has the same amount of intelligence as you. Like, it's why people get weirded out when they see like gorillas in the zoo making like facial expressions and having emotions. Like, it's a weird thing to think about. Like, oh, this thing is a thinking being. It's not about the species thing. But yeah, that's why I think it was better that they had these things, the Carnotaurs, be like just kind of like beasts. Instead of having the intelligence, they're just operating on like what they represent, which is like pursuing them as a representative of like the desolation and harm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, it is. If
But that's-
not cannibalism, it's something akin to cannibal. It's in the neighborhood, and it's a little bit weird for
It's not
what
in
they're
the
supposed to
neighborhood
be.
because like carnivores.
No, it's definitely in the
like,
neighborhood.
It's not in the
It's
neighborhood. That's
definitely in the neighborhood. If you're eating
as
other
a
sapient
predator.
species,
No. Here's why it's not cannibal. Because they literally can't survive without killing other animals. They can't eat the plants. Okay, that's not gonna work for them.
Okay.
And they're a different species. It's completely different.
well,
No,
I guess the
it's
necessity
only-
angle does change it a little bit again, but I still think they're close neighbors.
No.
Even though they must consume living
I'm a
flesh and they must consume other people.
Look, I'm just gonna say human first. I don't care if you eat aliens. You can eat all the aliens you want. I don't really.
So if
All right,
humans had
We're
to
gonna
eat
get on a
their own
very-
young, if humans had to eat their own
humans
young
are
in order
humans.
to
No.
survive,
Look, I
no, but
clearly
just
said
humor me,
humans-
humor me,
Yeah.
humor me.
Oh, wait, you
If-
said their
if
own
humans-
young. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, if humans
Listen,
had to eat their own young in order
Uh-huh.
to survive, would it not still? It'd be something akin to
That would just be cannibalism.
Listen to me. Listen.
It's
Let me-
their
let
own
me-
young.
Let me put it this
The
way.
actual word is
So,
sapiophag, if you're wondering. Sapiophag,
Yeah.
sapiophag.
sapiophage.
let me put it this
Yeah.
way. Let's say you're a farmer and you go, I make a hamburger, and you go out and there's a pig in the field and the pig speaks to you.
Uh-huh.
Would you feel the same way about eating that pig
Yeah, screw that pig.
after it can speak? It can
Yeah.
have
So
Screw
you'd
that
rather
pig.
screw the pig than eat it? Okay, we got a couple problems going through here.
yeah, pause, bro.
Look, you're a farmer. Okay, that's part of the territory of being a farmer. Okay.
I screw that.
You specified a farmer, okay? If you said a normal person, if it was just like me, then I would just kill the pig and eat it. But it's a farmer, so
So you would still eat a pig that can talk to you?
If
yeah,
it could
okay, I wouldn't eat it because I'd actually want to profit off of it. But if you said if every pig could speak, so then I can't profit off of a talking pig, then yeah, I just eat it. Yeah.
I think we're finding out that Dez is a terrible person.
I am strictly human first. Okay, I don't care about pigs.
That doesn't mean you have to eat them.
I mean, how tasty are they? I mean,
could-
if it's tasty,
If you're
look,
America
Tag,
first, are you okay
Tag.
with eating Mexicans?
how do you not follow what I mean when I say it would be weird to have them talk? Because the level of intelligence to say all that for a drop of blood or whatever it was, that means he's smart.
That's a lot
That
of
means he's been
intelligence.
observing them and he can think and he knows they can think and he knows they can have a conversation wherein he can inject this kind of sarcastic comment and then kill them and then eat them.
Peg,
doesn't-
let me put it like this. I really want to taste what a demon tastes like. That would kind of be interesting.
All right, so
to taste.
before you get into that, I want to say to
What are you
Donald Farias. Yeah, we're talking about dinosaur cannibalism. Moses, the burning bush was brought up. We haven't gotten to the monkey orgy yet. That's coming later.
Hey, we just got to the part where Moses doesn't get into the promised land because he struck the well without asking God. There we go. Bam, another Moses parallel.
This also came up. Hang on, I want to show Nina my favorite iguanodon meme. You talk dumb, you get the thumb. That also happened, buddy. Please don't eat Mexicans. They're very gamey. Eat Canadians instead. Bro, as much as I love a Trey, I ain't eating him. I'm sorry.
Nah, it's too much work trying to skin a Canadian. They're too hairy.
Too
That's
syrupy.
Yeah, it's not the best consistency. It's very greasy. Anyway, so what do we see after this? So now we see Baleen. She's just trying to push him on. Ema is going, there used to be water in the lake.
Yeah,
it's a
we
dry.
talked about them getting to the water already. We just got to the point where the Quran was about to run back and bully everybody out of the way before I got interrupted by cannibalism discussions.
Yes, I have a very great thing to point out. So Crone, because what happens is he goes, Baleen, dig your foot into the ground, press your foot in, and water comes up. It's just a little deeper under the ground, and they come up, and Aladar runs back. And he goes, hey everyone, we don't need to run away. There's water. And Crone runs back, and what does he say again? He goes, good, now get out of my way. And he roars at them and scares them back. And what I wanted to point out here is something I brought up 3 times already, is that when he roars, it's like the sound of a big cat. It's like a predatory sound. I think it's a tiger roar that he has. I'm not sure, but in
got the IMDb up.
it shows he's very combative like that. He's almost predatory towards his own kind. You know what I mean? Because he's very much out for himself. And then of course all the other dinosaurs run back, and again we see how they're very kind of, they don't care about each other. They push each other out of the way and everything. And we'll see. I'm going to bring that up later on another scene with the little young kid dinosaurs when we get to that, because that's important. Oh yeah, and also here's one more thing about Crone. I can bring up the kids now. When they cross over the hill to the lake bed, the little baby dinosaurs, there's two little iguanodons who are orphaned, and they're standing on the ledge like crying because they're like, we thought there'd be water, we're upset and everything, but they don't talk, but they whine. And Crone is like, that's enough. You have to be strong. You know, he's like, I'm gonna just keep pushing you on, and it shows him versus how we later see Aladar treat the little two baby iguanodons. Very much symbolizes how the juxtaposed different methods that they have for raising the young. I think symbolically that was great because, again, the babies represent just the next generation, like the thing that's going to be affected by the events of the story later on. And so they don't talk, but they whine and everything, and they react. And Crone treats them like that harshly, and we see later Aladar shows them how to press into the ground and make water, and he shows them that kind of like gentle nature later on. So that's everything about this. Like, there's scene by scene, you notice these things if you watch the movie a bunch of times, like an autist like me. But I really liked how they brought up the little kids to just have that little extra detail of like, yeah, this is going to have an effect in the future, the way that these different methods of survival are interpreted. I thought it was awesome.
Also, I want to say to Not All Fairness, this movie sort of holds up. The CGI is still really good, and it's definitely worth rewatching. When I say it sort of holds up, I don't know what you remember it as, is the thing. If you're coming into this for like a deep philosophical movie, outside of Pop's analysis here, it's not going to be like this movie. It's not like going back and rewatching
All right,
something
boy.
like Citizen Kane. You're not going to get that experience. But from a film, I enjoyed watching it again.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah, at the very least, yeah. I mean, it holds up visually. It's enjoyable. The story's fine. The characters are interesting enough. Like, yeah,
I think the story
not
is
that
the weakest aspect of it by far. For the record,
Mhm.
the visuals and the way it's presented is great. It's just a simple story, and as we get towards the end, it gets kind of formulaic. But the beginning is definitely worth watching. It's way braver at the start of the film than the end. We'll get into that as we get closer to more towards the end.
Yeah, that's one of the issues I had after we met the herd and kind of got introduced to them and kind of what's the word, like acclimated to them. Like now our main characters, the lemurs and Aladar, are part of the group. The lemurs kind of don't play as big of a role for a few scenes. It kind of becomes like, hang on, where'd they go?
From this point on, it starts to like get. I don't want to say bad because that implies it gets like unwatchable. But this was the last scene that I think is, oh, this is great. I'm really enjoying this, like all the way through. It's like, all right, now is when the film starts to go on a decline. If it was at like an 8-ish, it's going down towards a 6 at this point.
Really?
Yes, because from here on out, the next few scenes, it like you said, we get a lot less character stuff. There's a lot more just things happening that we've kind of seen a few times already. We're not getting enough outside of Aladar. The other characters just kind of stand around until we get through the cave scene.
Yeah, and there's also some pretty poor transitions. Like there's just they did the hard cut the first time was pretty funny because like they were of course like cutting to something completely different from what the character said. But the other like there's several other hard cuts in this film that it's just like, oh, okay, well, we're doing this now. Like we're just cutting now.
Right. So, but still, I don't think there was that many scenes that I felt like were too like stretched out or didn't need to be there. Like for the most,
no.
That's what we're saying. The opposite is the problem.
They
They
need to
don't.
add more to these scenes.
Yeah, they need more.
Oh, okay, yeah, I agree with that then. Yeah,
I don't think this film's not poorly paced by any means. The events happen quickly, things go on quickly. It's just the events are ephemeral to me. They don't last long enough for me to really. Not all of them, of course. Like the water scene's a great example. We get all the characters interacting. We have a little bit of skills from the different characters. We get some, the lemurs get to say a couple points. The old people get some points, and we see the interactions. I wanted more of like what this scene is for the rest of the film because we, we don't get any of that until the end of the cave sequence. Only the end of it, not even the beginning of it. The end of it has that. Then they get dumped off in the promised land, and we're done with the characters.
Yeah, part of it. Yeah. So,
and this isn't like it's not like this is a long movie. This is an hour and 22 minutes. So they had the wiggle room to add a little bit.
I was thinking about that. I think it might have just been like the fact that now it sounded like the original idea for the story had only one lemur. It's almost like they weren't sure like how they could fit in these characters and have them actually develop and stuff. Like I was trying to think why it was that they wouldn't have them be, so directly involved or like really have their actions affect the story.
The deleted scene one of the deleted scenes we have, we see it there's actually 3 Carnotaur. So they originally had an entire other Carnotaur that they cut out of the movie in order to speed things up.
That's interesting. What would the third Carnotaur have done? Because like, the only reason I see to do that is just to not have the scene where the third one gets.
Obviously, they represent the 3 faces of Satan from Dante's Inferno.
Yeah. That's what I was
going
to say.
Chewing up the asses of.
Well, by cutting one out, there's another. I don't know how to put it, a complication that should have occurred that we skip over, like in the storyline. I don't know where it would have happened. I don't know what would have happened, but just
wait.
One of the 3, basically the 3 problems to solve were cut out. We now know because remember he deals with one of them in the cave. So there was that one, and then he deals with the other one at the end of the movie. There's another scene where a Carnotaur would have been dealt with because they would have.
You're right.
Off in that order.
They still probably would have had to kill it off. You're right. I didn't think about. I was like,
yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking it would just get killed by the rocks, but you're right. They probably would have had a third scenario where that makes more sense.
Yeah, you couldn't.
That we have is we'll get to the scouting scene, but the deleted scene for the scouting scene, they send 2 people with Bruton, and 2 of them get eaten. And then they change it to the 1.
Well, still, that scene is important as well because
we're not at that scene yet, unfortunately. We're still at the lake, so let's.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that scene.
From here,
it is interesting though.
That scene happens right.
So what? Nero looking back and be like, "Ooh, he's kind of cute though."
That's not yet. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you when. It's more important what.
Water thing she looks at her and says that.
No, because I just watched the scene again.
The water. It's after the water that she says that.
But so what happens is when they first come up on the lake, Bruton is like, Crone, like, what are we going to do? It's all dry. And Crone is like, send a scout around the perimeter and go with them and just make sure the water hasn't drained somewhere else and see if you can find any water. And so in between finding water and then that night where they're camping out on the lake bed, we see Bruton and his scout get attacked by a Carnotaur that kind of comes around the corner. And they made a good shot too, because you're seeing like these kind of like sandy rock wall and you see the Carnotaur's shadow. And Bruton's like, all right, let's get the hell out of here. And then immediately his buddy gets attacked. And his buddy gets dragged away by the tail, which is an important detail that we'll point out later on in another scene where something similar happens. And what does he do? He runs away. So that's a character moment for Bruton. He sees danger. He doesn't want to help his friend. He's like, every man for himself. I'm out of here. And then that night, then we see Sully, the little sister lemur, teasing the 2 little baby dinosaurs who are afraid to come outside because they're afraid of getting bullied around the water hole, right? And I'll talk about that in a second, unless you guys got something else to bring up.
I got a couple things to bring up. First of all, I mean, realistically, Bruton probably couldn't have done anything. Like he was kind of a goner there.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that they're scouting ahead, but the Carnotaurs got ahead of them.
They're not they're not scouting ahead. They're scouting the perimeter of the lake bed. So the Carnotaurs could have been coming from the direction.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. They did say the perimeter. I thought they were just scouting ahead.
Yeah, they don't show exactly. They don't show exactly where they are relative. Yeah. But anyway, important scene. Also, oh, go ahead.
The other thing I was gonna say is, realistically, the when he just like is like, okay, guys, we gotta get going. Like after the lake bed, and like not really checking to see if that was probably the best decision. And at that time, like, there's not really if the lake's not there, lake's not there.
I mean, it was
the water.
That's why he still had it in his head to say like take a scout and check the perimeter, like just
yeah.
But yeah, like for the most part,
I'm just saying it's interesting that like he actually is shown to be like a competent leader. Like he's not just like
oh yeah,
evil Nick,
he's
let all the slow guys die. Like he's actually like, I don't know, well, frick, what are we gonna do? Like, I don't know, scout it. What's the best
no,
you can do?
because he does that, but then his sister, because at what point does he say we need to move on? I think his sister, right, is like Crone, like we'll lose half the herd, and I think the direct quote he says is like, then we'll save the half that deserves to live. Like he's a competent leader, but he's very much that kind of like that. Half the herd is dispensable as long as I reach my own goal.
Well,
Like
it's not as much that as much as it's like we don't have water. There's not really a way to help these guys. Like, sucks to suck.
yeah, I get why.
The thing is that ultimately, like on first viewing, that's what you get. But his very last things that he does in the movie kind of recontextualizes all this to be like severe cowardice. I just want to drop that. I've wanted to drop that since the beginning, but I just want to put that like idea in that all of this is not actually serving the hurt. He believes he is the most fit, and so this is what he does, and that's he's actually a coward. Like that's I just want to drop that idea to live for the rest of this. True. So true.
So, Des, you got anything else? Because I'll bring up the next scene with the babies.
No, that's about it.
Yeah. So then, we stumble upon Aladar that evening, and he sees Sully outside of a cave teasing what she calls the baby Aladars or the little Aladars, which are the young dinosaurs I brought up before.
For the record, I find that adorable that the kid, basically his kid sister, is calling them, little Aladars. I find that adorable.
Yeah, dude. The little orphan Gemini twins. They're not Gemini twins, but they're twins. So he's like, "Come on, guys, come on out," and they're scared, right? And it's because of the way that they were brought up and the suffering that they've gone through so far. And he's like, "Come on, guys, 1, 2, 3, press on the ground." And he brings up some water, and we see the little baby. One of them bullies the other one. He like knocks his head out of the way and tries to fight him. And Aladar has to tell him, hey, no, cut that out. We can work together. And it shows the fact that they have been raised in this like harsh, kind of brutal environment where it's dog eat dog. Their own little brother will try to bully them away from water, and then Aladar is the one that has to step in and teach them this new paradigm, this new way where it's like there's enough for everyone. We can work together and everything. And I love that it shows him teaching that to the next generation so that it'll be relevant in the future. I love that they did that. And then at the same time, of course, Nira is watching this happen, and she's like, "You've got such a way with kids." And then he makes a good joke. I think he says like, "Yeah, well, the skinny ones are easier to swallow," or something like that.
Yeah, he said it. He said something like that. It was good.
And then we get a little scene where he's showing her press into the water, and in the background, the lemurs are going like, "Oh, that's another one that we found him a girlfriend, success." And then they kind of like they press in the ground together, and they're I don't know, what do you call them, like hooves, feet, paws, like they overlap.
Little handsies.
It's like a holding hand scene. It's a cute little romantic thing that they did. So that whole scene was great.
Fingles.
I'd say
They're called what?
Fingles.
He's calling them fingles. I don't like that word. I'm gonna call them hooves.
I'll call them feet, but it shows now Nira is starting to get a little bit mixed up now. Is she going to follow her brother, Crone, who has been the brutal, kind of like not antagonistic, but, the very much kind of intense leader of the old guard in the way that dinosaurs used to live in this harsh environment, dog eat dog? Or is she going to adjust and try to accustom herself to the new ideology from this stranger from across the sea who's bringing up we need to help people, and he's spreading a different message. So it shows her kind of learning that too.
Yeah, I want you to know I'm being very funny right now, but I can't say any of the funny jokes because we're on YouTube and it's evil. If you want another funny jokes, join my Discord, linked below.
Oh yeah, there's one more quote here. There's one more quote here because in the scene before Aladar was trying, so Ema, the old Triceratops, the grandma of the group, she has collapsed and Aladar's trying to help her up, and then he discovers the water, And Nira actually asked him, she goes, "Why did you help that old dinosaur?" And he's like, "Whoa, what were we going to do? Leave her behind?" And she looks at him like, and it's funny because it shows the juxtaposition of their characters, like how they see the world, where he's like, it's inconceivable to him to leave someone behind when they're in need. He's like, why would I, what do you mean? Like, he says that as a joke, and then she's like, kind of looks at him, and he's like, "Oh my God, like, you're serious? Like, you guys do that?" And she's like, "Well, and then she starts to have a conscience. And it's a good character development scene for her, too. I think the pacing is great in the way that they made that happen. Like, it does happen fairly quickly, just in terms of, like, minutes. But at no point does it feel rushed. At no point does it feel like it happened too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there was one complaint I forgot to have at the very beginning of the thing, so I'm bringing it up now. Chat, there's grass in this movie, and it annoys me deeply.
There's grass in this movie, and it annoys you deeply. Why does grass annoy you deeply?
Grass didn't
Yeah,
evolve for like 200,000 years ago. Grass is new, is almost newer than humans.
Oh, come on. Dude.
So what would it be instead? Some sort of like long weedy thing?
Yeah, what would it be? Ferns?
Yeah, there was been fern bushes all over the place.
Oh,
How big are the ferns then?
probably pretty big.
Big. They're about
Probably-
the size of modern day ferns.
Yep.
It would definitely have been a different scene. We're seeing something on the screen right now. It definitely would have been a different scene than the grass.
Yeah, yes, really. Grass is brand new. That's this. The film's further ahead than we are because we've taken forever.
Yeah, by
That's
far.
right.
The grass. I'm going to
That's
pause
not
the
true.
film
We're
for a
going
second,
at
actually.
lightning
Hang on a sec.
speed.
It'd be very jungly instead of very like serene
Here,
and
I'm
nice.
gonna pause it. I'm going to turn off the NFC. No, hang on. A little bit longer shot.
It'd be a lot more dense. I agree.
Yeah, let me get us to a scene where I can actually see the grass. Yeah, here. You see all the grass around? That wouldn't be happening around.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be much, there'd be much more moss and lichen and like shrubbery. All right, let me NFT back on screen for you boys.
A
Hell yeah.
shrubbery.
Yes.
So, after we get that little water scene, I think they rest, and then is it the next morning or maybe that night? Bruton runs up to Crone. Now he's by himself. He doesn't have his scout because he got taken by the Carnotaurs, and he goes, Crone, we gotta run. We gotta move. There's Carnotaurs. And Crone, of course, shows himself and his character as this brutal leader who's like, tough shit. He goes, "You've led them right to us. Maybe you can feed them with your hide, And so he's like, he's mad at his own second in command, despite how loyal he is and everything. It shows that he's like, yeah, you're dispensable to me, Darwinian. It's your fault that this happened. It's something he doesn't take responsibility for a lot of the things that he does, despite
That's
the
why,
fact
even though he's correct in a lot of the things in terms of meanness, he is like still too selfish, as Pag said.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is. Darwinian really is the best way I think you could describe it. But it shows that he's got this kind of like brute force kind of ideology, and he's like, if you're not helping me right now, whatever. And so then later, I think they run away, right? And the squad gets separated from the herd, and that's when they end up in the cave in the rain, right? But on the way, if you got anything else, on the way they find Bruton, and he is injured, right? Did I miss it?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's injured so much or he's just tired and old. It's not. I don't think it's exceptionally made clear in the
I
film.
think I thought.
We're talking about the second in command.
Yeah, I thought I saw a wound on him.
Yeah, no, he's like majorly
He's
wounded.
screwed up.
He gets
I
like
see.
bit up
Yes,
quite a lot, so he's like
seemed like
really
that.
injured.
And I don't know if I missed anything. I don't know if he got attacked by a Carnotaur or if Crone.
He was in the scouting team. He just got in the fight.
So I want to yell at Not Nefarious. Did you trust the Google AI? Is that what you trusted? Because what it considers grass is rice and bamboo, which I don't think we'd call grass.
I mean,
wait. It considers that rice. Why?
They're probably in the same family.
Yes,
that's retarded.
But what we would call actually call grass isn't until 55 million years ago. It's Poaceae, I think is how you pronounce it. Poaceae, because we have just dumb words. But yeah,
there might have been like primitive wheats back then, right?
Why is that considered grass though? It's not. It's the same family. That's not grass.
Well, I mean, it's probably in the same.
listen.
It probably is a grass. Like it's
Listen.
probably classified that way.
Well,
I got-
scientists are dumb and gay if they're counting bamboo as a
So
grass.
true, EP,
No, grass
however.
is grass. Grass is grass.
Yeah, I agree. I've
Yeah,
seen
that's fair.
in grass. I would say there's a difference.
There is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. You aren't wrong. You aren't wrong. I'm not denying it. I'm just saying.
Man. So here's the
Okay,
cool
so do
part.
you want to say one thing real quick? I'm old, so 55 million years ago is when we had grass back when I was in high school. But apparently they found poop in India that pushes it back to at least 66 million years ago. That they discovered in 2015, which is after I graduated high school. So I was correct originally. I will be wrong, but it's now 66 million years ago.
66
which is
million.
right before the meteor hit, which is very funny.
It took.
They think it could have been up to 13 to 100 million years ago, but the Chinese said that, and they said it evolved in China. There's a thing about Chinese archaeology where we don't trust them because they don't let people verify their claims.
Yeah,
so
and it turns out that everything
by
came
normal
from China.
science is 66 million years ago.
Yeah, it was around. It just took us a few million decades to figure it out. It's you guys like Des. You guys are too young. You wouldn't remember. But like we didn't know. You know.
Well, no, Pops, I'm joking, but like I graduated high school in 2012, so I stopped learning about dinosaurs back then. And it said 2015 is when they said, "Hey, we found grass in India and poop in India," which is very funny of a location. Thank you, God, for that location. But yeah, they found poop in India for 66 million years ago. That says that's when they actually discovered that grass is older than 55. I always learned it was post asteroid was grass, and it turns out it's like very, very barely pre-asteroid. So, barely by a million years, but still.
But also, even if it was like back then, it wouldn't be like this nicely manicured lawn. Like that's not how grass grows, like in the wild. So
anyway, so what we see now is they're coming on the trail, and it's night. They've gone off the trail a ways because they've fallen behind the herd, who obviously is like, S-word carnivores. We got to get on the move. So they've fallen behind, and they're kind of in like the little badlands in the mountains and trudging through these like trails. And they see Bruton injured, and Bruton, of course, again, characterized as kind of rough, doesn't care about other people. He's like, why are you trying to help me? Just let me rest a little bit. I'll be fine. And Aladar, despite all the abuse that has been hurled at him by Bruton and Crone, he looks at Bruton and he goes, "Listen, it's raining. We'll be in that cave. If you want to come in with us, you're welcome to do so." And it shows that
it is also a nice detail that and an interesting detail that both Ema and the was it Brachiosaurus or whatever?
Bailey.
Bailey and Ema are like, screw him. Like
Yeah,
they're both like, screw off. Like we're gonna he's told us to screw off. We're out of here.
yeah.
But it's him.
Yeah.
It shows
like,
one single person.
Eldar still is like, no, we got this. Like, come on, let's go. What are we doing?
Eldar has that next level. He has that kind of like next level of compassion where it's like, even if you've been mean to him and even if you've wronged him, like he still cares about you,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's at first Ema outside of the cave is like, why don't we just leave him behind? Screw him. And then when he wanders inside, eventually he gives in and he comes in, and Aladar is like, come on, don't stand out here in the rain. Then Baleen says, like, have you forgotten? He's one of them. And it's like, okay, yeah, they look at him as like the other, as like the enemy and everything. And Aladar is like, no, he's one of us now. He has no choice. We're all in this kind of struggle together. And it shows the level of compassion that he has. It's a great moment as far as his character, that he's willing to help, people who have wronged him and everything.
Yeah, he instantly forgives people. He's just like, well, you need help now, so you're on my side. And that's all there is to it. That's another thing. Again, to the very end of the film, the very last bits of the film, that is the person he is. Yep. He's a person who changes the world, not a person who is changed by the world.
Yep. Another cool detail is that what's it called? Bruton also, I don't know if it's like before he's in the cave or if it's in the cave. I don't remember exactly, but there's also the line where he's like, I've accepted my fate. Like, why won't
Oh,
you
I'll
guys?
tell you. Yeah. That's another line. That's where Pleo, he's in the cave, kind of like
Okay,
sitting
so it
off.
isn't like, whoops, I jumped the hell a little bit. Oh
So
well.
no, you're exactly on pace. So he's sitting off a little ways on like a little ledge in the cave, away from the group, and Pleo comes over and she brings him like medicine, which again shows that she has the same compassion despite his abuse and everything. And she's like, we this plant used to grow on my island. It'll heal your it won't heal you, but like it'll make the pain go away. And she offers him medicine. And that might be like one of the most powerful scenes in the movie, where they have a little back and forth. And he goes, why is he doing this? Why is oh, I got it right here. He goes, why is he doing this? Pushing them on with false hope. And she goes, well, it's hope that's gotten us this far. And he goes, why doesn't he just accept their fate? I've accepted mine. And Pleo asks, well, what's your fate? And he goes, it's to die here. And he says, it's the way things are, which shows again his ideology. But then Pleo goes, well, that's only if you give up, it's not fate. It's your choice, which shows, we have this will, we can help each other, we don't have to just suffer because of chance.
Yeah.
And it's a great exchange. And I think for a kid's movie, I mean, that kind of goes very hard. So then he kind of is just like groans, and she gives him medicine and walks away. And then we get the Carnotaurs coming into the cave.
And I think this is the first scene that we like get a really good look, because we see them moving around and kind of doing things, but we don't really get a good look at the Carnotaurs.
Here.
I was gonna say we
until
don't get a
here.
fully body shot. We get
Look.
some other good shots of them, but not a full body shot.
Yeah,
Full body
and
shot.
here is you see them in like
I'm gonna
they're
scroll back
framed
a
in
bit.
darkness and lightning, and
You're
there's
gonna have to scroll
the
back a
rain
lot.
just
It is at the end of the movie.
pouring down on them. It's a really good like visual. It's like a genuinely a very like, no matter what way they did this visual, it would be a very striking visual. Like this what
Yes.
they did here like would transcend medium. If you wrote this visual, it would also be very striking. And I think that's a good thing that they did. A good story thing that they did. Narratively, it's I don't know if compelling is the right word, but they did it good when they set this scene up the way that they did. When they set the reveal up the way that they did.
It invokes like a strong feeling, like to the extent that I will say, like, this is one of the scenes from this movie that like I remember over the rest of the scenes. Like, if I didn't remember most of the plot of this movie as a little kid, I definitely remembered seeing the Carnotaur poke its head in under the waterfall, and you see the teeth kind of come and shine out of
I
the.
think we can have it on screen. I'll put the Doge NFT on, but make it like much thinner for everybody.
I mean, this is the shot. Yeah, the money shot there is the shot that I always like think of when I think of this movie.
And then we
Yeah.
push his nose through.
As a kid, like it was genuinely a little bit frightening. And I mean, as an adult, it's a very, very tense scene, and it's a very well written scene.
For sure. So what do we see next? Is everyone's like, oh, oh boy, there's Carnotaurs in the cave. Snakes on a plane, Carnotaurs in the cave, and and so they all start running away. And Bruton is hurt, so he ends up getting away for the most part. But then Aladar, who has been pushing these guys up a rock wall, trying to help nudge them up, saving them before he saves himself, he gets grabbed by the tail by one of the Carnotaurs, the same as what happened to Bruton's companion Scout a few scenes earlier. And Bruton looks back after he's had this little, dialogue where he's like, get a new perspective about helping others and why it's important and helping people survive. And it's about choice and not fate and everything. So as this new friend of his, as of a few minutes ago or a few hours ago, gets grabbed by the tail, same as his old buddy from before, he makes the choice to jump down there and save the group. And so what he does, we get a little bit of a redemption from him. Only, I know it happened very fast, but I do like the way that they did this redemption thing for him, because it's like he doesn't run away like before. He jumps back, he saves Aladar, he kind of away, and then he ends up causing a rock slide that sacrifices himself, but also takes out one of the big Carnotaurs.
Yeah, there's some great dramatic irony in this scene that turns around his words from earlier, how he's destined to die here, and it's his choice whether or not he dies here. Like it turns that around beautifully. Like this is a very well written scene, like very well written. They drop that line earlier, and then he chooses to die here, but he doesn't choose to die here as a coward. He doesn't choose to die here abandoning everyone else. He chooses to die here as a figure redeeming himself to save these other people, which is great. It's a very well written scene. I mean, it's a really good scene in this children's movie. Like. They didn't need to go that hard. They had no need to go that hard, but they did. They wrote a very good scene here, and it's good. I mean, if someone was like teaching like a writing class, I think this would be, even without the rest of the movie, this would be a good scene to just snatch and be like, hey, look at this. This is how you do dramatic irony. This is how you like redeem a character quickly. Because this is his redemption. The whole thing, beginning to end. There's nothing else that would redeem this character.
So this isn't like one of those things you see on Twitter. It's like this shot should be taught in the film. No. This film goes no, nothing like that. This isn't like the greats. This is just showing you how to make a solid scene, how to do a quick redemption, and it's just the power you can have. Because this is again very short film, and this character's like even shorter. I think he's got 4 scenes in the whole movie, a screen time of 2 to 3 minutes. Like,
yeah,
and this is like a Bruton and what he's going on with it. It's very effective and efficient.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
It's
not a master, but it's good.
The entire context of like, his character and everyone else and what's happened to everyone leading up to this, it really makes it powerful. But I love that they did that because everyone loves a good redemption arc,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I think we cut back out to the desert and we see, they're punished. They're getting punished by the land. It's brutal. They have no way to. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say. Like any story like this, where it's almost like an Odyssey / a long journey or something, we always see like a scene where it's like they're caught adrift out in the open, whether it's the ocean like the Odyssey or like this is like in the middle of the desert and it's like there's no protection from the sun, there's no water, everything. I like everything about this scene is like kind of a parallel to stuff like that, where it really highlights the brutality of the landscape. But I think what we see is that. So we come back out to the desert, and one of the younger dinosaurs actually collapses, and the sibling starts crying. And it's an interesting moment again with the way that the younger generation is treated, with whether it's toughness or compassion. The younger baby starts crying because his brother collapses all dehydrated. And Crone hears the guy crying. He doesn't even look. He like snuffs and turns his head, and he's like, no, F that. We're moving on. You got to be tough. You got to be strong. But Nira actually goes back and helps him up and is like, come on, little one. So it shows that
infected.
Now Nira is showing the compassion that she's learned from the new perspective of the lemurs helping each other and of course Aladar. So it shows that now she's starting to take his side. So it's a good character moment from her. And it's brief, but she it shows her she's instilling hope in them. She helps the kids. Now she's learning the value of being compassionate and helping.
It's like 15 seconds. That's it. Just 15 seconds. Boom. Done. Which is tight, but also they could have had. They could do this more. This is the type of thing that it's like they could show us some more personality and some other characters by extending some scenes and adding some stuff in. They made a very tight script, but I don't know. I would like to know about the budgeting constraints and if they were forced to make a very tight script.
This film was the most expensive film of the year, and it was the most expensive film like that Disney made for like the next 3 years. It went way over budget. It had a lot of problems financially. That's why it almost lost the money, like I said, at the box office. And I want to do also point out to build on that. So I know most of you guys in chat are I'm gonna be nice to say aspiring writers and film directors. This is how you make a film or a story. You have several of these small scenes and you link them together into a long string of scenes. When you're trying to understand like what do you do for writing and how do write, this is how you do write. This is how you learn how to write things like this. It's just small, efficient, building a scene, getting what's going on, and you string them together. Stuff like this is why so many of the great films are great. Because little moments where we get to see the characters interacting and how they would, deal with it that build into the story. Like we said, there's so much meaning about her being nice to the babies. We understand now, like we said, she's joining the cult of Aladar. She's understanding compassion. She's listening to the whispers of the evil lemurs and stuff. all that stuff that we were talking about that her brother would be like very cross at her for, or that 10 minutes ago she was like, oh yeah, I completely agree, kill those lemurs. Now she understands. No, we don't do that.
Yeah, dude, I wanted to kind of jump on what Pag said about how hang on, what did Pag say? I kind of forgot.
About him being a character who changes the world? Or
About
no,
that.
not
About
related to this. I don't remember what I said either.
it's bothering me. Flipped out of my head. Give me just a moment. So yeah, it's about how she goes back to them, shows them the encouragement and everything. But
About the script being tight and being unnecessarily tight.
yeah, hang on. It was about how like it's why I'm like kind of torn on whether I think this movie is like closer to a 10 out of 10 or closer to a like, I don't know, I enjoyed it as a kid, but it's flawed, is because the moments that we get, character moments, like this moment for Nira, it's brief and everything, but it holds so much weight.
Mm-hmm.
And the moments that we get characterization like this are excellent, but then at the same time we don't get them for some of the other characters that we might care about. So that's why I'm kind of torn on it. I'm like, I wish there was a little bit more. I don't know how they, but I do wish there was more.
She's saving the life of a child, which I think is a very, very like potent, like symbolically thing for her to do. Like saving the life of a child is a very, very good way to instantly show in these short 15 seconds. I think they probably could have had things that cemented Kron's cowardice earlier on. They could have had more for Bruton. And again, the transitions. There's several very like jarring transitions where had they added a little bit extra here and there, they could have made the transition significantly less jarring. And they could have made whatever that was into some sort of character moment. I mean, the thing is, as a writer, you have ultimate power to make any scene that you want end in this character moment. Like, in my opinion, when you're building a story, you figure out what you need to happen where, and then you make the story do that thing.
A thing, yeah.
So like if they know they need X character moments, they need this to be somewhere in this part, they should put that in. And if they have the runtime, but they were constrained by budget, so I don't think that I don't know. Given that they were super over budget, I don't know how fair it is, because they were operating within these constraints and they had to have this tight only 82-minute script.
That's how I feel about it too. It's almost like there's a ceiling of like what I can actually critique about it, because it's like I understand now the kind of the work that went into it and what they were allowed to do, just constraints and everything. You got to be realistic about that type of stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
But yeah, they were operating within.
I can agree, but I also want to say this is a big budget Disney film. Disney could give them more money. B, if the writing thing doesn't need to be how do I put this? That's not a budgetary issue. Writing is you could have done some more passes. There are done a couple more scenes. Dialogue scenes are very easy to film, and very much like simpler. I understand that they wanted to do the lip syncing, and that probably took a lot of time and money. But there are scenes where like you get panning shots, or you can have it from the character's back. Anime does this all the time, where you can get a little bit more dialogue out from a still image, basically.
I was gonna say I don't know. I'd be willing to say that there were outside factors, but I don't know how much I'd be willing to say like, oh well, they it was the budget or XYZ, because like do we give that to like any other movie? That's like, oh, the budget was low.
I appreciate what they tried to do.
A crappy movie.
And I give them credit for it, because like it's impressive what they still got done. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the things that would make the film better. I'm not going to talk about it. I have to talk about it, because that's how that's why this film is vaguely remembered by people, and it gets talked about not so often versus a lot of the other films. I mean, go back to the beginning of the podcast. I listed off a dozen films that came out in the year 2000. Just Shrek alone competed with this movie in the home sales. And Shrek is way more beloved, way better written, and way more impactful than this thing was, for a reason. It's just small little scenes like this with character moments that this film lacked, that they could have easily put back in if they were given a little more budget, sure, but been a little more efficient with their time. You could have, if it was just purely time related, you could have cut several seconds off panning shots and several seconds off Carnotaur shots of the movie. Not completely down, but you cut a second here,
Yeah,
2 seconds
yeah.
here, 3 seconds here. You could make another minute or two on this already criminally short movie and have another minute or two of character scenes. And like we're getting to
Yeah,
the point now of the film where I'm going to scroll back a bit because I want to. This is where I really want to step in because again I
Oh.
like this film, but there's a couple issues. Right here, I believe I'm gonna put the NFT down.
What are we?
Let's see. That's where that's where they're running for the Carnotaurs. This is where Pop said the babies are being abandoned. Then here, so our main heroes are stuck in a cave. They get to the very end, and they're all basically have given up hope. At this point, is the main Brontosaurus lady? She starts helping them, and they all start pushing, and they break through into the promised land. This scene right here is the last scene that I think is like really good in the film. From this point to me, because a lot of the characters just leave. They just stay here in the Promised Land. I know why they stayed in the Promised Land, but they just stayed here. Only, our main character, Aladar, gets to go anywhere at this point, and he's the only character we have going on with anything. This scene where they break through this like rock here is where the film to me stops being about an 8 and goes down towards a 6, because all the characters that I've been getting to know that I've been liking so far, I know why they're here. They can't leave though. The story put them basically, unfortunately, here. What I maybe would have done is maybe have one of the lemurs go with him, so we have a little bit of banter. Like this kid brother one. So who's the Zinni? Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I would have had Zinni come with him because besides Alan having somebody to talk to for a bit for the next scenes, it also allows Zinni to do something heroic to earn his good ending that we're going to get to, where he hasn't done anything to earn his good ending. All the other characters have done something worthwhile or something even the little like baby one, Siri, the young lemur, she does something heroic of trying to get the babies to come drink. We don't see a single heroic thing Zinni does to make him worthy of his good ending. And I think he's one of the characters most underserved. You might say,
not only that, but the one thing he does is like he does the cat calling and dog thing, and what's the response from that? It's the lady one being like, yeah, Jerkosaurus, exactly.
Dude, Leah, let me bring up just one thing, just to touch on what Pag said about how there's certain aspects where characterization kind of just, you don't quite feel the, I don't know, the continuity of characterization. So my issue with the scene where Baleen starts helping break over the wall is the fact that, like, after Aladar finally, got his life saved and Bruton had his redemption arc, he tries to push against this fallen rock wall, and he's just like, he just gives up. He's like, it's no use. And it's like, my man, your life just got saved by the power of friendship. Like, how can you be hopeless right now? And then, of course, Baleen, who we've seen kind of be like a gentle giant and everything the whole time. I don't think we've ever seen like any sort of like underlying, like some sort of brewing intensity inside of her or anything. I don't know if the whole idea was it's supposed to like burst out of nowhere or what, that she always had it within herself. But I don't think we quite see a lead up to the fact that she's, the most powerful dinosaur of all of them. And she's just like, nah, don't give up. I'll just break open this wall like out of nowhere. But yeah, the fact that they all work together to do it is, that's absolutely a very important detail.
Yeah, that's a poorly written scene for sure. The fact that he just kind of
the scene itself is
it's just the execution's lacking.
Yeah, because the only setup is that Aladar finally is like, well, guys, we had a good run, but we're screwed. We're screwed.
Yeah, like
and that's what causes her to do it. But like, yeah, there wasn't really anything like leading up to that where she was like, that down in the dumps and stuff.
I would have
and
not had Aladar give up. I would have had Ema give up, the other old dinosaur. Her give up, say, this is useless, why even try anymore? You shouldn't have given us. I would have had her insult Aladar and been like, you shouldn't have given us hope out, you prick. Look at this. Now we're all gonna die in this cave together. At least I'm never gonna see the sun again. This is gonna be like that's what she is. Then the old lady says, the Brontosaurus were like, no, this young man is right. We need to work together. We can get through this. And by God, I'm going to beat this cave to death. And then that scene would have been much more powerful because, I get it that you don't want the old, the Triceratops thing to be mean, but he needs that. That,
No, I agree.
The beacon of hope becomes hopeless otherwise, which is weird.
I agree. I agree 100%. Like I honestly would have felt better about it even if they went straight to Aladar being like kind of cut down, and then having Ema, whose life he has saved multiple times, being the one to step up and say like, stop whining, get up. You've brought us this far. Like there's not really anything like that happens though. That's why that scene specifically I had an issue with.
Yeah, well, funny you should mention that. Actually, you're right. It kind of is like a bit worse because, I forget the other grandma's name. I only remember Ema.
Baleen.
Baleen. Yeah. She doesn't like. She's been all right. Like she hasn't been in too much like danger where like Aladar has directly saved her.
The water was the last
after she got
for her, but she said nothing for the last like 20 minutes.
Well, not even in the water. Yeah. She wasn't like dying. She was like all right. It was Ema who was the main one who was like, guys.
Yeah, Baleen was
I'm dead.
Baleen, it was the water scene. The water scene. Yeah, Ema was like collapsed on the ground, being like,
Ema's like, well, guys, it's been a nice
she's like
one.
having an episode, and Baleen is trying to push her on, be like, there's no water, we have no choice, we have to move on. And then, like, by circumstance, Aladar happens to notice the crushing feet bringing up the water and everything. He's the one who does that, but yeah.
Because Baleen still is like, yeah, I'm not that. I could go for a drink, but I'm not like dying, you know. She's like everyone else. She's like, you know, it'd be nice.
She's very
much like I'm dead.
She's very much consigned to, I guess, what would be her fate as far as she saw it at the time. Until Aladar is the one who points out, like, step on the ground. And again, innocently, she's like, "Is something wrong?" And he's like, "No, we're making water." But anyway, yeah. What scene are we on now? So they break out into the promised land, and they come out, and everyone's like, "All right, great, we're here. It's beautiful. There's water. There's modern day freshly cut lawn, grass, and nesting grounds. We're here, the promised land." And then we look into the ravine or whatever it is to the whatever side, and there's a rock slide now. There's a huge rock wall that now the traditional route that the old, brutal, harsh, cruel dinosaurs used to go through, now their route is blocked off, and we see now the old guard, they have to find a new way. Otherwise, they're doomed. And there's a sheer drop on one side of the rock wall, and then we cut after Aladar runs away to try and what I like about Aladar here is that he's seen the promised land, right? So he's almost like a prophet who's trying to guide them when he runs back to them. But he, the same way that our boy, Jeebus, they hated him because he told the truth. He's he runs back and finds him, and he's like, "Come on, guys, there's a better way." But I think I'm
like, screw you, eat a pile of butts.
I think I'm skipping ahead here.
You're skipping. You skipped one small scene, and that was just the quick Eldar hiding from just a quick thing to be like, yeah, he was able to get past the Carnotaur, by the way. But that was it. It was like a
that was a death scene, wasn't it?
Nah, I mean there was someone dying, but it wasn't it wasn't anything.
Well, there is a death.
Yeah, there's a death there. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
The members has died of dehydration.
We see that, and also, the scene Aladar is like hiding behind a rock.
The movie again, chat. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The only other thing is that Emo was like, it sucks, they're gonna die now because the jump, but.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about Ema being like, she's like kind of the wise grandma, but she's also very resigned to the world that she's in. So like she sees that, and Aladar is like, "What's the matter?" And she's like, "That's the way we used to get in here." I guess
she's like, "Sucks to suck." Oh well. She's not like, let's go back. She's like, "Well, that sucks."
I think fits with her being, because earlier again when Bruton was like, "Hi, can I come in and hang out?" She's like, "No, kill him with rocks."
She's as much as she is like wise and is aware of like the old times and the history and how good things used to be in the old times. She's still, like I said, like she's resigned to just like kind of accept the way that things are. So that's why Aladar is so important, that he's able to jump in and kind of transcends that while still being compassionate and being like, no, we can make things better and everything. And she's hesitant. She doesn't really kind of she's kind of like she's ready to die in multiple scenes, and Aladar is the one who's like, no, wake up, like things are all right, we can push on. It's a good dynamic between them. And also, just to bring up real quick, the fact that I didn't like certain characterizations over the course of the movie, now people didn't develop. I feel like most of the time, Yar, the old grandpa monkey or lemur, the only time we get him talking and having any moment now is just back and forths between him and Ema. And despite Ema getting characterized and everything, I like what they did with her for the most part.
Yeah.
Yar kind of just is the same thing as her. And he kind of just is. I guess we just instinctively look at him the same way as her, but at the same time,
Yar gets like stuff in the beginning and the end, but does not really much in the middle. And then like the mom gets like one thing in the middle and nothing else. Well, nah, she gets stuff in the beginning.
You
and
get
middle.
Pilo. She at least gets the scene with Bruton, so that's a
Yeah.
really good character scene.
No,
Yar
no,
doesn't get
I was
anything
saying
else.
I was saying that in the middle, but then I remembered the beginning. So she gets stuff in the beginning and middle, but not really anything.
If she
at
gets
the end.
enough stuff, she's fine. But again,
The
with
lead-
Pops, Yar should have had a scene.
No,
in the
yeah,
middle
Yar
with him.
gets nothing. No, Yar gets nothing in the middle. So
Yeah,
like it's really
Yar-
weird.
it becomes like comedic, and that's you know what? I'll point it out. The one thing that I remembered most of all, even more than the waterfall scene with the Carnotaur from this movie, is when Yar is riding on the back of Ema, and it's like, all right, they're this old couple, just kind of like behind the herd, and he's like, "Hey, old girl, you're getting off track," or like, you're wandering off the trail, and it's a line that I didn't realize how funny it was until now later on, but it always caught my attention when I was a kid. She goes, "That's just what I need, a monkey on my back."
I think
I was like,
That's a good line.
the humor in this movie is excellent. But yeah,
it's all in character. So it's one of the good things about
But
the
that's-
little bit of humor we get. It's all in character. There's a lot of modern humor breaks character horribly and like making fun of itself or the thing, where the characters are playing off of each other, which is why it gets fun.
but my issue is that like they have those back and forths, and like that's all they do for the rest of the movie. At least
Just those
that's
two
what
characters. Yeah.
Yar for the most part just kind of just back and forths for the rest of the movie. Not really too much about him. I mean, he's a lovable character, but still.
I like him too, but what he should have done is there should have been like he should have had another interaction with Aladar being like the wise grandpa figure to help him out. I think you could have easily done when Bruton died. You could have had Aladar, like look distraught and have Yar come up and say, "Hey, Aladar, he's not going to be the last person we're going to lose on this journey. At least he got a chance to do something right at the end.
Something
And
to
that's why
illustrate.
Yar could have helped, Aladar be like, Aladar could be like, he died, he died for, what we failed. And Yar could be like, you kidding me? You gave him everything he needed at the end. You gave him purpose for the first time in his life, Aladar. You should feel good about him, what he did. He chose to die. Instead of consigning himself to death and being, I would have had Yar say something like, like pathetic, like a rotting fruit maybe. He was a rotting fruit, and you gave him another batch of being, a life. He had a chance to do something worthwhile. And that's all you needed Yar to do to boost Aladar's ego a little bit, and that would have given Yar another important scene in the show. It also would have allowed us to have a bit more of an impact of Bruton's death. Stretch that out for another minute or so, and it would have really made it impactful.
I don't know. I kind of wish, like, at the same time, I feel like it's difficult to balance. Like, Yar might not have that perspective because he is kind of like the jolly, joking grandpa character from, like, I've said Garden of Eden, but, the totally different kind of land. And I know at first he's like, dinosaurs are flesh-eating monsters, and he looks at them as dangerous and everything, but I don't know how familiar with that sort of, like, philosophical perspective he might be. And I might be digging too deep trying to think that, because for the most part, I mean, like, Pleo, when she goes and talks to Bruton, she very much like has reason to be fearful of him, but she is bold enough to help him out and everything. So I don't know, maybe it would make sense if they did it that way. But again, yeah, the whole thing with Yars, he kind of takes a backseat for the whole like middle of the movie up until the joking parts.
Welcome, Alex. Good to see you, buddy.
Alex, my guy. Yes. So anyway, we
Wow. No, I need to comment on something. He said 9-year-old Alex is thrilled at this movie being discussed. That's very sad to see, because -2 me was very excited to see this movie when it came out. So
yeah. Let me tell you
that's
something.
very disappointing. You're just not ahead of the curve enough. It's very disappointing.
All right, brother. So we cut right. So we cut over to.
Not in this film.
Damn it! What happened?
I know. Alex said Ron Perlman's in this film, and he's not in this film.
Who's he play in this film? Hang on. Really?
I have
Oh.
the cast up here. There's no Ron
He's
Perlman.
not in the film. No,
I want to see the cast now because I feel like I recognize some people, but
You
I
don't
also have
recognize any of
no
these people.
clue.
I promise you.
You
Okay, I
recognize
don't.
any of them.
I
I do
recognize.
not recognize
Like,
any of these people.
I recognize like 2 or 3 voices. Like half recognized them. Like I don't know why. I didn't look up who it was. Yeah, I don't think so. But anyway,
No, I thought I recognized people. I don't. I do
Zero
not.
of these people. I promise.
Yeah,
Everybody
I
you
haven't
think
been able
you
to find who like actually narrates the film. Is the person who plays the Triceratops the person who narrates the film? Is that the same voice?
It's not technically a Triceratops, but I believe so.
I don't think so.
It sounded like basically the same, so I thought it was the same one. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, no, you don't know.
You don't know, man. You don't know. Man, the
don't know.
Carnosaurs look really cool in this movie. I just want to highlight that again. The Carnosaurs are very neat. We've
So
like
They look.
on
I
screen
mean,
a few times.
they always look good. To be fair,
So-
like, is there a time they don't look good?
In any other movie, I don't think I've seen them. So
Well, that's your issue. You're not watching the dinosaur thing from like 2000 for kids, which you were probably like 10, so you were already widely outgrown them. But they were grunting at each other, and one of them did a mating dance by twirling around in a circle while showing his neck to another one. It was very cool to see.
I
That's
don't
what
think I did see Walking with Dinosaurs.
It wasn't Walking with Dinosaurs. Common misconception. This was a different thing where they had that was like, get kids interested in science, where it was random dinosaurs, but they're grunting at each other, and you watch, a narrative with no narration, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. It was the crap when I was like 4 years old. I love that crap.
Yeah, all right, man.
Let's respond to chat real quick. Not all various is correct. Ron Perlman is sir not appearing in this film. Alex Gomez, your first chat that I want to respond to is how come the carnivores don't speak? We talked about that at the beginning. And your second chat, don't worry, we'll get to that scene. There is in fact a Dino Snoo Snoo off screen.
Hell yeah. Anyway, so where were we in the film? Are we finally at the scene where the Carnotaur does crawl in?
We're right before that, actually. So we're at the scene. So
yeah, so
it's an important moment again when it
He says,
shows
"Let my
that
people
he interacts with the younger generation. Because his whole deal is they're at this impassable rock wall. And again, the rock wall kind of shows the culmination of his kind of brutal mentality and everything. Is like, yeah, eventually you're going to pass some sort of challenge that your kind of brute force method just is not, it doesn't work.
Well, wait,
individualistic way and everything. And he what he does is he brings up the little 2 baby iguanodons and pushes them up the rocks, and he's like, these guys, come on, they're strong. And it shows that he's even forcing the younger generation, and they're hesitant now because they've experienced the compassion of the other dinosaurs. And it shows that he's kind of losing his pull, his impact on the rest of them. And
also,
that's
forcing children to go before him. For literally, he's the type of leader who forces children to go first.
Yes, he's that kind of cruel, kind of like doesn't care about others. Yeah, Darwinian and everything. He says something like, what does he say? He's like, if they can do it, so can you. He's like just trying to like force people. He's not convincing as far as like a compassionate perspective.
Overpowering. He's overbearing and strengthening.
Yeah. It's like only the strong survive from his perspective. But Aladar, of course, is willing to go back from the beautiful promised land through the desolate waste and endure the attacks of the Carnotaurs and hide from them and get away from danger, only to help these others and try to convince them that there's a better way. So that's a good moment that he does that. Let's see. He avoids the devils and the darkness. Again, I talk about how the meat eaters don't talk again because they are those kind of predatory forces. They're not antagonists, but they're an antagonistic force.
They're a force of nature. This is like if you were to define this the conflict, it would be man versus nature, not like man versus antagonist. And they embody nature. They embody like the the death that nature will bring you, which is why they don't talk. Hey. Anyway, so so he gets back to these guys and he's like, "Yeah, guys, y'all need to come with me." And Kron is like, "No, absolutely not. I will murder you. In fact, that's what's about to happen." And then
yeah, he tells him, so he goes, he's like, "Guys, there's a better way. I can lead you back. I've seen the promised land." And they start to follow him, and Kron, of course, he has no like, he can't like speak and convince you. He can't try to proselytize and convince you. So what he uses is brute force. When they start turning and following Aladar, he attacks him.
Yeah.
So they fight for a bit and and then eventually Aladar kind of rises up and he's like, he'd like,
"Oh, no. It wasn't it Myra kicks him off of him and he's like,
maybe.
"Oh, wow."
Yeah, she stops because he's like about to kill him because he's like, "Next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you." So then, he
that was
at
way.
first he does like all right fighting him, but then at the end he gets him on his back. He's about to kill him, and she comes and smacks him, and then he's like,
and it shows that Nira now has fully committed to the different ideology of the new guy, this kind of prophet figure, this Moses or whatever, the compassionate kind of mentality now. And it shows even she is disgusted with her own brother Crone, and everyone starts leaving, and he's left behind, in his own kind of
in his panic, in his cowardice, fleeing away from the Carnotaur. And
so then the Carnotaur rounds the corner,
and he sees the least fit member of the pack.
Well, not only that, but part of the story, a big part of it as well, is that he's like, "Oh, it's the one alone. I can pick this one off."
Yeah.
The whole strategy that it's had throughout the whole story.
You skipped the entire scene where they learn how to work together against the Carnotaur, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That's
so the Carnotaur rounds the corner, and everyone is, they're apprehensive. They start out backing up. Maybe we should
run for themselves.
Yep, and Crone starts going. He's led them right to us. It's his fault. This guy, he's evil. He's the problem and everything. And everyone's like, "Well, I don't know. Maybe we should run back." And then, Aladar steps up, and what does he do? He takes a stand against the Carnotaur, and then other people see his bravery and see what he's doing, and then they step up, and then the herd, as a group, is able to drive the Carnotaur back, for a time that they can pass him. But in the background, here's Crone, still bullheaded, still refusing to subscribe to this new mentality that's, better for everyone. He decides, I'm going to try and scrabble up the rocks by myself, F everybody. And of course, Carnotaur goes for the easy prey.
And so it, like, while Crone is struggling up the wall, the Carnotaur just runs right up it. It's like, this is no problem for me. I'm going to kill you. And
he goes very
Crone
full Sam Hyde. I'm coming to your house to kill you.
Yeah. And Crone finds himself at the edge of a drop-off, and he's just like, "Well, this sucks." He's looking down at the edge of the drop-off, looking up at a sheer cliff in front of him, and he looks back, and the Carnotaur is just charging him. Like, the Carnotaur's, that's it. This guy's at the end of his rope. And in fact, the Carnotaur gets on top of him and basically one-shots him. Like, no problem at all. Smacks him on the ground a couple of times, smacks him in the wall, throws him, and the Carnotaur's about to finish him off when Aladar is like, "Nope. This ain't happening. Not on my watch."
That's
Aladar.
It's not Aladar.
Again.
His sister at first, I believe. His sister.
No, it is.
Oh,
It is
Aladar.
Aladar.
First?
He runs first.
Here,
Yeah.
let's see.
It is Aladar, yeah, because Aladar, again, he has every right to leave this cruel, kind of, I said slave driver, I know you disagree, this kind of cruel leader behind and kind of just leave him to suffer, basically the karma for his own ideology and everything. But again, Alador, in defense of like the ultimate kind of like force of nature, the predator, he runs in and tries to save his life. He tries, and he ends up defeating the kind of the big devil bullhead horn carnivore and everything by I think like kind of by chance and by luck, but again, it's because he was able to jump in and make things happen that he ends up winning the fight.
Mm-hmm.
The Carnotaur, I think it like steps up on the edge of the cliff and the rocks kind of cave out under it. And we get a weird, jarring, slow motion CGI dinosaur thing that I didn't quite like when I watched it. But like, I understand what they were trying
to do that in this movie, and I hate all three of them.
The
yeah,
slow
it
motion
does not feel right. Yeah. It is very silly. And it's placed to be like super serial, but in fact, it is very silly.
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't work with the rest of the film.
Oh, man,
Something funny is that Crone still gets his. He still perishes.
He
Like,
still
even though
does. Yeah.
Aladar gets his heroic moment, but Crone still gets his comeuppance, which I think is fair.
I mean,
see
kind of,
it happen right here?
what it
I at
shows.
first thought Crone was going to get redeemed because he could pull Aladar up, but Aladar's like, nah, bro, I got it myself.
Yeah, literally Chad Aladar.
I mean, it's almost like a scene that implies that, like, you don't have any choice but to leave the old ways behind, because what it shows is Crone passes away, and then immediately we cut to a nest of eggs in the nesting ground. So it's just kind of implied, like, the
The old way died.
The head of like the old guard, like the old ways are gone. Now we basically. You can't, because of how brutal Crone was and how committed he was to the way that he thought, it's almost like you couldn't quite redeem him and have him become, do a total 180 and adopt the ideology of Aladar and like, be compassionate and everything, because the whole thing with him was like for the whole movie, he was the bullheaded one pushing on forward. Like he doesn't care who dies, who suffers and everything. And so having him pass away, despite the fact that Aladar like saved him, I think it still
Alex
worked.
Gomez, no, bad boy. Put that away. Put your dick away, Alex.
What the frick?
Hang on.
What
the only
the
one sexy is the
hell?
lemur mom. The lemur mom's the sexy one, Alex. Get it right.
What
Anyway.
the hell?
I do want to say real quick. There's a few things I want to go over about the ending. First of all, the original ending didn't have the Carnotaur. The Carnotaur died before they get to the ending.
Really? What was the ending on?
The original ending was on their way to the nesting grounds. They reroute past an active volcano. Aladar and Kron have a fight near a river of lava, and eventually Kron would have drifted off in it, attempting to get away before we see him possibly sinking. This was scrapped because they feared it would give it the PG-13 rating, seeing him boil alive.
I mean, that is what
Star Wars.
That is how Star
George
Wars
Lucas
got
would then be inspired into Mustafar.
Yeah.
You were the chosen one.
Yeah. George Lucas was willing to bite that bullet. He's like, Anakin, we will see him burn alive. We're not cutting away from that. We will see him burn alive.
Yes.
My goodness.
So,
well,
fun fact, the actual Pops, you had a question about the voice cues. Now we got the end. I could talk about some of them. The Carnotaurs were voiced by a leopard. The raptors are voiced by chihuahuas. And the lemurs were voiced by penguins.
Huh.
The lemur sound effects were made by penguins.
Yeah, well, hang on. Just because we do the ending? Hang on. Because it's
fair.
All right, fair enough. So what I said is like we basically had to have Crone pass away just because like to represent the fact that the old guard is like completely extinct. This old brutal mentality, we can't have that anymore. It doesn't work, and it's proven. And he never really did redeem himself. He just kept ultimately being brutal and then being a coward. But anyway, we see the new eggs. We see a new baby, and again, we end where we started, funny enough, in the nesting grounds with a baby. And we see the characters kind of raise up their mouths, and they all kind of have a chorus of triumph, and I think that's great. Were you waiting to talk about the lemur harem?
I was just gonna say the lemur harem's on there.
All right,
and, mashallah, he got many wives.
Yeah, I don't want to skip ahead.
No, there's one more thing I didn't want to talk about, and that's the fact that Crom has to die. It's not just that he has to die. I think it's much better that he dies this way, because the other original version, he was probably going to die due to Aladar doing more things, like breaking the rock. This is better because it's his own philosophy essentially that gets him killed. It's not just a death.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to have Aladar as his ideological opposition, but like being the guy who's compassion and everything. You wouldn't want to have Aladar directly kill him. That would like
Well,
go
not
against
just that,
the
but like
entire.
all the
Not just that.
practitioners of his idea are dead or reformed. Bruton, who's the second in command of his ideology. This would be like if we got Stalin and Lenin to both die at the same time, and in the end, the rest of them are like, you know what, this just ain't working. I don't like killing all of these innocent people.
Yeah, that's why the fight scene between him and Aladar was so powerful, because it shows first even his own sister is like disgusted with him, and then everyone follows suit. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it shows his ideology directly failing because the group is able to beat him. Because Aladar, part of why it works is Aladar is like, he's clearly weaker. In every fight, he loses. Like, it kind of defeats the point if he wins through his methods, where he's able to beat him alone in a one-on-one fight, where he's lost every time. He does. It's not even really close in any of the fights.
Yeah.
Where in this way, he loses, but because he wins through his way, because he's able to, use the power of the group, and it doesn't matter that it's one person, because they're a group, they're able to beat him, since he, of course, wasn't paying attention, and 2 versus 1, you're probably not going to win.
Yeah, because he was looking at it. He was looking at it directly as like an individual one-on-one confrontation. When, yeah, you're absolutely right, Des. I didn't even think about that. The fact that it takes the group to, kind of push this group is better kind of love, compassionate ideology forward. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, you wouldn't want to have Aladar go back and kind of fight the guy on different terms than his own. Yeah, oh my goodness, I didn't think about that, Des. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's the one time you'll compliment me.
I'll
take that.
Literally
I'm gonna savor that because that's never happening again. I know.
You've never had a good take besides that. Yeah.
I'm amazed that you.
No, I love you.
That was a good take.
What are you, fucking 19 years old or something?
I'm actually 5.
So now we're here at the end. They have the off-screen dinosaur sex that Alex Gomez is so interested in. They have the babies very quickly afterwards, and we get to see that the baby immediately christens Grandpa Yar by peeing all over him again.
Another great humorous moment, man, because he picks up the baby, and it shows now Yar. He's compassionate. He sees the dinosaur. He's come full circle from the beginning where you were scared of them, which we don't see, but it's cute. So they're all like, "Look at the baby Aladar," and then he picks him up, and the baby pees on him, and he nods and he goes, "You're your father's son, all right." Which
I think before that
is very funny.
Well, before that, he's like, he looks good. He doesn't look like his father at all. Are you sure this one's yours? And then he pisses on him. He's like, well, okay.
I don't think that's what happens.
Well, more importantly, here we go, boys. The main character.
Mashallah.
Our monkey friend here. He's the first enlightened man ever, Zinni, and he starts Islam with his harem of wives here.
Yeah, Zinni kind of just appears out of nowhere, and he goes, "Guys, guess who I found? New neighbors," and it's like all women.
Yeah.
Like,
by the way, I got a
like
harem.
horny for him. It's very funny.
It's like they landed on the Wonder Woman island, like.
Yeah.
It's like, by the way, there's just 7 females with no males.
Yes.
I just came across them.
That struck me. That struck me.
There's 5 of them, and he's number 6, so it's a 6.
No, I'm pretty sure. Wait. I'm pretty sure if you go a little forward,
you can't argue with me.
No. Go a little bit forward. I'm pretty sure another one appears. I commented on how many were. What did I say? How many?
You said 7. I said 5. I think the actual number 6. You see, look, now I was shouting. I gotta put the NFT back on screen for a sec.
No, there's 5. You're right. There's 6. There's 6.
How many? Just because you want 6, I know you want to live your fantasy through the blonde.
I want to be right. That's what I want to be. I want to be right.
That's his fantasy. His fantasy is not having sex with women. It's being correct about a petty argument.
Yeah,
that's right. So listen, this is one of the details I personally had an issue with, and I think most you would agree. I don't think we saw very much from Zinni that would say he deserved this, but at the same time, I almost felt like, like he provided comic relief. He was relevant to an extent, but not really. But it was like
disagree.
It felt like It felt like they didn't want to like just kind of leave that stone unturned. They were just like, yeah, we got to give him something.
That's why I
He's
said
kind
that
of
he should have gone with Aladar to try to help him get the other people recruited, and that at the end there, and he could have done something. He didn't have to be in that final fight. Maybe he could have thrown a rock or something to distract the Carnosaur, or something slightly heroic to warrant it. And he could be like, "Yeah, baby, I went up against the Carnosaur," and then they all jump on him. Like that would have made sense.
Yeah, you could have
You
done
know what? Yeah,
something.
you're right. You're right.
Because the main thing is, yeah, he A, doesn't do anything, and B, the only things that we have is like the beginning of the movie where it's like, yeah, no one wants him, and then it's like beginning ish to like going into the middle, and it's like he tries to set up Alatar, but then he completely fails to where he gets like we said before,
The Jerkosaurus, yes.
Jerkosaurus, and then he does literally nothing else. So like you don't even have him like reflecting on that or like trying to figure
I
out
agree,
like
dude.
a better way to like pick up chicks or anything. He doesn't do anything heroic. So then it's really like what are we doing here?
That's what I feel like I had an issue with almost is once the once the lemurs kind of, because he was always kind of the outcast parallel, like he was the outcast within the lemurs versus
Yeah,
Aladar.
exactly. But they
Outcast
don't do anything with him.
they established that as like a mirror slash a parallel to the different characters, and like after they meet the dinosaurs who kind of mirror them and kind of mirror their group in general, they kind of don't become they kind of just lose relevance. And I feel like that applies to more than just Zinni, but yeah, Zinni. This scene specifically, I was like, I felt like they almost like had something they cut out and was like, well, we got to give them something. I don't know.
I definitely think they lose a lot of their relevance except for like Sparks, almost Sparks. Like Sparks, they have moments, like the mom has the thing in the cave, but other than that,
But
she's not
yeah,
really
like
doing
it's
anything.
in between that.
Yeah.
When does she even talk? You know what
Yeah,
I
no,
mean?
she doesn't. She doesn't. Yeah, she's like basically non-existent until they need her for the plot. For that, and then the like sister character does not exist basically at all. Until she needs to, go to the two little.
I feel like only like
Iguanodon.
each of them like had maybe like one powerful scene or like one scene where they were that important.
Yeah, they have one scene after the beginning where they're important, and then they're just not important until the end, where it's like almost the
Well,
the
I
stereotypical
mean,
like where are they now type thing, where it's like and they
look,
all lived happily ever after. Beep, 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 beep.
let me try and put it this way, because now that I think about it, it's like almost like each of the lemurs has like one or maybe two important scenes where they get characterized, and that's kind of it. So like for Yar, it's that first scene where they find the baby Aladar and the egg, and he's like, all right, we can keep him. And then he kind of like is just that way for most of the movie, besides being humorous. And then like Pleo, we get that scene, of course, where she finds him and she wants to help him. And she gets a scene again where she helps Bruton. But like I don't think she did very much besides that. And the same thing with the young girl Suli. I don't think she did very much. And then the one powerful scene we got with Zinni was during the little courtship ritual. I don't think any of them really had that much going on besides like each scene where they were the center of focus, and that was kind of it, besides like one or two times. And I liked them as characters. I thought their characters were good and they worked, but like we just didn't get very much. I don't know.
Yeah, there's just not. Most of them are basically out, except they don't get much to do.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I still like them. Like honestly,
I'm
like,
sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm
So
ignoring
first
it. You
you're
can
Alex.
comment
Whoa,
on it if you
whoa,
want.
whoa, 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 whoa! No,
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 you
no, no, no! You're gonna ignore this? We're gonna let this stand?
I'm
Let me
working
see
on a
this.
meme right now, so you can go after it if you want.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, he's right.
okay.
He's right.
No, no,
He's
no,
right.
no! Pops, don't do this to me, Pops.
No, he's right. Zinni
Uh-huh.
does have the best like monologues in the entire movie, but
I
all he
think
says
Pops is
is
being
That's not.
he's like
Whoa,
challenged.
whoa!
talking to
That is
himself in the
not
mirror.
what I'm looking at, Pops. Pops, I don't know
Oh,
where
hang
you're
on.
seeing that. That is not what I was looking at.
Wait,
I don't
where?
know what you're looking at. That is.
Oh, I was not so caught up.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at Alex Gomez's last comment, which the Iguanodon comment was bad enough. I didn't need to read that one. In what way? Like, that's just an actual monkey. How is it fur bait? I'm just curious. Like, this isn't even like the furry where, like, they try to... Don't. Just stop, okay?
Huh?
Well, like... How is this fur bait? Like,
my
you go to a zoo and you see like a monkey and you're like, oh my goodness, fur bait. Like, I don't even know what to say to this. Like,
Zoos. Yeah, wait, Alex. Alex, does that mean zoos are just?
yeah, like
can't
you
even
go to
say
a
it.
zoo and you're like, oh my goodness, a lemur fur bait. Like,
Disgusting. You're despicable.
He doesn't call them
dude.
zoos. He calls them sperm banks. Oh,
You're killing me.
oh my
I gotta breathe.
Wow.
With that chat, I think this is a great time to end this stream. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I hope everybody learned a thing or two. Oh
I
yeah,
learned
by the
too
way, let me bring up why I thought again. There's parallels between Crone and actual Moses, making him an anti-Moses is like Moses, right? Des, like you pointed out, he made it to the border of the land of Canaan, but he never got in, right?
yeah.
Similar to Crone, who made it to that big rock wall, and it was a big enough challenge to him. And because he was not the true, like, guy who was like that, or whatever you would want to call it, I'm trying to make it brief. He never got it. He was kind of an anti-Moses who was ideologically opposed to the real Moses of Aladar. But yeah, I hope I
You are
convinced
right. He
you.
is kind of like an anti-Moses.
Yeah, well, I said that 3 hours ago, and you
Yeah,
disagree.
well, I wasn't paying attention, so how
Well,
about
just
that?
goes
Well,
to show I convinced you.
you
All
did
right.
convince me.
Chat.
Yeah.
We love you, chat. Have a good night.
Buy my
We
books.
I love
Everybody
chat
go buy-
except for Alex Gomez. I don't love Alex.
No, we love
Gomez.
Alex the most. Thank you all for
No,
joining
we
us
love-
tonight in this episode of the Council of Candor. I appreciate all of you showing up and chatting with us. Next week, we're going to have Zimzilla on, allegedly for real this time. And we're going to be talking about different dinosaur fiction again. Also, look out Friday. I'm trying to have my Download video is almost done. I've been having a hard time editing it, but once it's edited, it's going on the channel. So I'll catch you all later. Thank you for joining us, guys. Goodbye.